Good evening and welcome commissioners, applicants, and interested parties to the March 20th, 2025 meeting of the Cohasset Conservation Commission. My name is Valerio Romano. I'm the chair of the commission and will be running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 260 of the Cohasset Bylaws governing wetlands protection, and Chapter 263 of the Cohasset Bylaws governing stormwater management. The Conservation Commission meeting is now in session and being held via Zoom. If you have any questions for the commission, type them in the Q&A section of the Zoom application. Please include your name and address to be recognized. If called, please limit your discussion to 3 minutes. Present this evening on behalf of the Conservation Commission is the town's conservation agent, Charlotte Pechtel. I'll now take a roll call of the present conservation commissioners. Please respond by repeating your name and saying present. Commissioner Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, present.
Commissioner Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, present.
Commissioner Chris McIntyre.
Chris McIntyre, present.
And Valerio Romano, present. Tonight we have a quorum of 4 commissioners. Before we get started on the continued public hearings, I'd like to say that there are 3 sets of minutes for approval. First, July 11th, 2024 minutes. Do I have a motion on those?
I'm going to make a motion to accept the July 11th, 2024 minutes as they stand.
Second.
Voice vote should be fine. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those minutes are accepted. The next I have the January 9th, 2025 minutes.
I move we accept the January, what was the date? Sorry.
It was the 9th, Tom.
January 9th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. And then finally, the January 23rd minutes from 2025.
Make a motion to accept the January 23rd, 2025 meeting minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So all 3 sets of minutes, July 11th, 2024, January 9th, 2025, and January 23rd, 2025 are all accepted. Thank you, Charlotte, for your work on those. Next, and Angela, yes. And thank you, Angela Giso, for your help too. I know you're not on, but I know it's a tough job reading through those. Is a lot of detail and I appreciate the effort. Next, I want to inform anybody who may be on for NOI 2504 and Stormwater Permit 2502 for the 40,500 square foot building at 165 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, that hearing will be continued to April 3rd, 2025. So no reason to stick around for that. And then we also have a continued show cause for riverfront alteration at 39 Riverview Drive. That's also going to be continued to April 3rd, 2025. So those are off the agenda. We have no new filings tonight, but we do have a number of continued public hearings. Unless there's something else, our first hearing is continued from March 6, 2025 for discussion of NOI 2129. This public hearing is now resumed. I believe at the last meeting, we sort of had a meeting of the minds at the end of the last hearing on this. And we had, among the things that were agreed upon, one was to plant 6 new shade-bearing trees. And we had a spot that we thought might work, and I see Mr. Ashton is here. I said we had a spot that we kind of all hoped would work, but my understanding is that it doesn't necessarily work. There might be some work on that sidewalk, and it's not a perfect spot. But I know that Charlotte had done a site visit with the Ashton family, and they had chosen another spot. And I think Commissioner McIntyre also had a great suggestion, which was actually also within the 50 up by the reservoir. So, with that, I'm going to pass it off to Charlotte to see if there's anything else we should be thinking about or discussing. I think Charlotte, and let's just do that. And we could talk about how we're going to sort of, finalize this and maybe updating the COC with just our agreements that we've come to. Charlotte?
Yeah, so on Tuesday morning, Will, Victoria, and I met with Chris Murray, who is the tree and park foreman. DPW, our tree warden is no longer with us, so he's kind of our acting tree warden as well. We were looking at the sidewalk area right across the street from the playground where large ash trees were cut down. And Chris was hesitant to put trees back in that area. We don't have an idea of when that sidewalk might get fixed or improved. So they obviously did not want to put trees back. They may even get rid of that grass strip entirely, just given any potential long-term safety issues with the new playground. We looked at another area, and I can pull up near map. We looked at another area right in front of the cemetery along Doan Street. But unfortunately, even though that space is a little bit roomier, it doesn't really allow for larger trees to be planted. We'd need to put in medium-sized trees, which I don't, or small to medium-sized, which I don't think is what we were looking for. And so then the third option that we looked at, sorry, just pulling up near map. I'm sorry, Will, I don't know if you remember, but I'm forgetting the name of this park. I don't know if everyone knows it's a park. This triangular strip between Church Street and Doan Street, just a little bit past the ball fields. It does not have as many trees on it as there used to be. So a handful of trees have died. There was a large ash tree in the middle that was taken down a long time ago. So this strip here along Church Street has practically nothing. The trees up here, I'm going to be honest, I don't know what condition they're in. So we figured this was plenty of space for 6 trees to go in here. We were talking about red or sugar maples. Chris was comfortable being able to plant them 15 to 20 feet away from the roads, so we don't have to deal with road salt and issues there. Maintenance doesn't sound like it'll be a problem. And then obviously you have plenty of room for watering or any irrigation or anything they need to install to protect those trees. And just a quick update from the DPW side. We spoke with Chris. I spoke with Chris a little bit afterwards, and he can. The trees are going to be available. The town goes to a nursery, I think, in Situate, and those trees will be available in the next couple weeks. So there is a potential to maybe plant them in the spring if Will, Victoria, and the Girl Scouts are able to assemble their troops. It sounds like we can order the trees in a relatively quick amount of time, which will be nice. So that's the update that we have. Will, did I leave anything out?
No, I think you got it. Thanks, Charlotte.
So Charlotte, do you want to bring a map over to where the other possible location that Commissioner McIntyre had brought up, which also makes a lot of sense to me. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. We didn't walk this area obviously because we were, of course, only looking at the initial area that the commission had discussed. But there is this. It's at the end of Beechwood Street. I think this is Water District area. There's a sloped grass area that goes down to like these stone, riprap structure areas, and there's a peninsula kind of out here that's, I believe it's mostly just mowed. But I don't know. I mean, we'd probably have to go back and speak to Chris, but that was a thought. I think Chris, was that your potential suggestion? Oh, sorry, Chris, you muted.
Yeah, that was an idea just because I've been there. It's in the buffer zone, so it's a little bit more applicable, but there's obviously the administrative issues. I don't know if that needs to be maintained open for some reason. So there are, some checking. I think the important thing is that, I think we can work or let you work with Will on the location, maybe investigate that if it's an option. I think it'd be preferable for me anyways, just that because it's replacing something in a buffer zone. But I have no idea if it's feasible. Let's find it if that's if it's all right, Charlotte and Will. Let's see what the rest of the commissioners sort of have to think about what we've discussed so far. Commissioner Bell.
Yeah, I don't think that the dam would be permitted. It's an earth fill dam. I don't think they want to see tree roots growing into the fill at the dam there. So that's probably I mean, you can check, but I doubt it. I would favor the triangular spot on Church Street.
Hmm.
One thing about the Church Street spot also is, if they're nice, large shade-bearing trees in some number of years, they'll probably get more, the shade will be more used, right? There'll be kids hanging out underneath it and dogs and people walking around it, and it might beautify the park. Where I mean, I've certainly walked up there by the reservoir many, many times, but that's just because I'm a crazy dog walker. So, I could see the definite advantage. The reason the reservoir was nice was because it was in the buffer zone, Commissioner Berrigan.
Well, I was going to say next to the reservoir also for the same reason, because it's in the buffer zone, but since you just said it really doesn't make sense to do that, then I'm fine with the park, the triangular park.
Hmm.
Commissioner McIntyre, do you have a preference? I know you suggested
No,
that.
I just thought trying to I didn't really spend a lot of time obviously looking
Okay.
outside of the area. So I just saw that was a grassy area in the buffer zone. Thought it made more sense, but again, I'm happy with where we are in terms of, this here in replacing trees. So I think I'd be happy with Charlotte working with Will in terms of locating, finding a location. My only input is that my preference would be to obviously see it in the buffer zone if possible, but
All right, so why don't we do this if it's all right with the commission? Why don't we? So Will, unless you have an issue with it, what we'd like to do, I think Charlotte's already made some headway on it, is just hold on, let me just look at my notes real quick. Is to update the COC just kind of with the agreements that we've all had here. And we could take a vote within the commission. And why don't we can go through those specifically with you to make sure that they match your understanding and what makes sense and is fair to you from what we talked about at the last hearing. And then we can update the COC with that, and then we can just sort of move forward from there. Will, does that sound like a reasonable path to you?
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't think we need to continue this hearing another time. I think we can update it, and it sounds like Tom and Kathy had sort of maybe a slight preference to the little park area. And as much as I'd like to see them in the buffer zone as well, it does kind of make sense. I think the trees are just going to get more use there, and just be a better public good there. So that would be mine. But I think we could leave it up to Charlotte and you, Will, and whoever from the town, should they not be able to go in the park and then not be able to go by the reservoir. Like, you guys can figure out where they go, as long as they're, and so, Charlotte, can you take it away as far as, what you've done to, draft? I read through it, but I'd let you, discuss it and see if make sure Will agrees with the terms in it. And then we could, update the COC and get a copy of that sent back out to Will.
Yeah, let me pull that up. And by the way, the conditions, I know I added a few, but they were also pertinent to previous discussions. So I am happy to take these out. And just to clarify, Will, these were in black are the two conditions that we had added to your amended order. So this would be in addition to the standard template plus the condition from the original plus the two conditions from the amended. So I didn't touch the second one in terms of the O&M plan. Now that we're kind of at a different time point here, I slightly revised the language here. This was something that came up in my brain after the fact. And given how, sometimes projects need multiple reviews, I'm happy to take this out or leave it. But Will, the one thing I would recommend is working with the building inspector to see if you need to get any additional approvals from zoning for the change in use on the property. If you don't, great. If you do, that might be something to look into. I don't know if you've already spoken to the building commissioner about that, because I know you still have to file for a building permit.
Agriculture is an allowed use in R2.
It's an allowed use in residential areas?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm happy to take it out if the commission agrees then.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not applicable, it doesn't hurt, and if it is applicable, it's there. So I think you could leave it, because if you don't need to get any further approvals and you don't need to, and that's fine. So it's almost like it's
We already have
Oh,
like
it's superfluous
general
language.
we have like general template language about changes anyway. So, I mean, this is a little bit repetitive.
okay, take it out.
Okay. So yeah, the first condition, instead of, you know, the cross out language, you guys can see that, the applicant shall work with the agent, and I just added the wetland scientist if we need him still to finalize the buffer zone planting plan composed of native species. So I don't know if the commission is fully satisfied, and if you are, we can just leave the condition as is as a retrospective condition. I just kind of added buffer zone planting, but I mean, if you guys are satisfied with the planting plan, it sounds like we were at the last hearing, so I can take this out. Or I can, you know, if we want to have Brad give it one more final look over, because, you know, I think Will last time he only had like a day to look at it. So
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
why don't we just leave that in place?
leave this or just delete it.
No, leave it in place.
Okay.
That's-
You could put, you know, after scientists, comma, space, should such additional review be necessary, you know.
Wait, sorry. Sorry, what was that?
After the word scientists, comma, space, should such additional input be necessary.
Yeah, that's really just to make sure that,
Yeah.
you know, in terms of, I mean, I'm sure Will and Victoria did a great job at their research and spacing, but since, you know, he already had Brad give initial look at it, I mean, it couldn't hurt. And then this is a little bit redundant, but just to make sure, if we wanted to review the plan on site, Will, if you're open to that, great. If not, I mean, I can go either way. I think as long as we have a second eye on the plan, then I'm good either way. I don't know if anyone has a strong preference to just making sure that before we do the planting, just making sure that everyone's okay with the site conditions. And I'll read these. This is my draft.
Um,
I think you should take a look at it.
Okay. And then the last question before I read everything else was, everything else is kind of what we already discussed. Do we want the planting to be completed by a certain date? Yes or no? Because otherwise it would just be, you know, obviously we understand the 3 years plus the additional 2 years for the extension.
well, Will, what do you think? Is there a date you're super comfortable with?
No, I don't. Well, just generally, I don't know why we are adjusting the conditions on an approved order of conditions. There was already conditioned to get an approved mitigation plan, which I thought we did. And it feels like now we're retrading things. Like you have to plant these bushes before you can plant your farm. So I wouldn't feel comfortable doing any of this today. Like it just feels like double trading. Like there's another bite at the apple or whatever it is. But no, I don't think it's fair or precedented or anything to require me to plant the shrubs. We're gonna do the trees regardless, but to plant the shrubs prior to getting the flowers out here.
I thought you already had your flowers planted and running. Isn't that the point? That was kind of the point of not like doing this on the time frames. Like you were already doing what you're. I don't. Is there something in
this
here that
was-
says that you have
This
to
was
cut
based
down?
off of previous discussions. So like I said, I'm happy to take this
Wait,
out.
hold
Like,
on, Charlotte. Wait 1 sec though. You're already doing the flowers, right? So no one's. There's something in here that says that you would have to stop doing them in order to do this.
So they're not out in the ground out there yet. They're started
Hmm.
in our basement, in our garage, in front of the house. They're not out there where we did the work yet.
I mean, if you're just in general have an objection to updating the order of conditions, we could just continue this and Charlotte, wait, hold on, put that, I think you should put that back for a sec, Charlotte, Control Z. You know, we can definitely put in language that says, you know, the flower, whatever we're calling the project, may continue as the rest of these conditions are being completed. I got no problem with that, but I think given sort of, you know, just sort of the trouble that we've had with all of this, I think updating the order just to only what we'd agreed on. I mean, I don't think we're re-horse trading and going back and asking you for more, but if you're sort of objecting in principle to doing this amendment, then maybe why don't we just get you a copy of what we think the proposed stuff is that we're talking about here, and you can deal with it what you want. We can add you to another agenda, and let's just, continue this tonight and not
No,
belabor it.
I'm open to amending it, but I thought the amendment would say what we said in the last meeting, which is we will plant 19 shrubs in the buffer on our property and 6 trees in a place TBD. Because that would satisfy the condition.
Let's see what here, but you don't think that, so you're objecting to I mean, and I understand you don't not necessarily want to pay Brad Holmes or somebody else to come and confirm, on site that your plan is doable and is going to stay healthy. And is that kind of the issue?
No, it's more, I mean, I probably should be concerned about the money, but it's more the principle that I already have.
I wasn't knocking you for
permit.
being concerned about the money, by the way. I get
No,
it.
it's,
Money. Yeah.
I mean, whatever, Brad, we're gonna get Brad involved no matter what. So it's more the principle that there's a condition in an approved permit that says get a planting plan that the agent approves, and Charlotte wanted the commission's input on it. We got the input, we agreed on a plan. That should be the only change, I think.
I'm fine with that if the commission is. Like I said, this was based off of previous conversations, and that's why I've kept this as a working draft.
Well, hold on. So number 2 is just you're going to get Brad involved anyway. So number 1 and 2 don't necessarily have an issue because he's going to be involved anyway. And I think it would make sense, just to have somebody look, hey, we're going to put all these 19 things all around here. Does that make sense to you? Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. Why don't you move this there, and that way it will be healthy and last longer. So number 1 and 2 don't seem like a problem. Number 3, especially if we say, your current, whatever we're calling the project it does not need to be stopped or whatever. Then, I think it's not a bad idea to pick a date, given sort of the adversity to doing this all in the first place. Let's just give you, that's what I was saying. What's a really outside convenient date for you to get it done? And, so that shouldn't necessarily be an issue. And then
but I don't see why it would be any different than the standard term of a permit. Why would this be treated any differently than any other permit?
I mean, I don't want to sort of like go back and restart any friction. I just don't. I don't want to do that. But you're going to want eventually to get a COC from us, right?
I think the idea behind this condition, I can't remember why I typed it based on what somebody said at a previous meeting. I think we just want to see the buffer around the work area. And again, I don't know if anyone specific requested a time. I think it was just the concern to mitigate the buffer zone, and which you are going to be doing through the approved plan. But I think, mitigation plans sometimes have deadlines, sometimes they don't. We put them as conditions depending on the work. Sometimes we have, sometimes we haven't. I mean, either way, we know you're going to do the work, Will. I just think in regards to the buffer zone restoration, I mean, I can go either way on this. It's really it's mostly like sometimes we put in mitigation deadlines, especially for scaled projects or phased projects or things like that. And like usually the deadlines are kept as a general date. But yeah, it's not like a hard stop or anything like that. But I mean, Mr. Chair, if this is going to be a contention point, like I think we should just take it out.
Well,
Okay, but I also don't want to, maybe help me understand this. Like, Will's able to do his project, start planting his flowers. I guess they're in starters now or something, and cut them down and make people's kitchens and living rooms bright and happy with the finished product. And that's all going to happen before he even comes to us for a COC. Is there any urgency on his part not to keep just sort of dragging this out and not? And unfortunately, given the history of this, there is a little bit of concern that some of the mitigation stuff isn't going to necessarily be thought of as urgent as we want it to. So, I mean, I don't understand. Is it? I mean, he has no urgency to get a COC. It's not like he needs it for a certificate of occupancy for a new house, right? He can be doing this for 5 years, or the term of the permit, and then get an extension for the permit, and
I'll remind you what you did say to us when you suggested the mitigation, which was, Will, you have 5 years to do all this. So
well, that was 20 full trees. And I asked you right now, I said, when we know what's a really outside date to do it. I didn't say, but you were talking about getting the 6 trees in this spring, right? With the Girl Scouts.
yes.
So how about we divide it up? The 6 trees will be done, before the end of spring 2026. So that gives you next year too. In case for some reason you can't get the Girl Scouts and the trees together this spring, you could do it next spring. I'm trying to be fair. We had to fight.
Fair would be to comply with the original condition, which says a mitigation plan acceptable to the agent, which we agreed to last time, not adding 6 conditions to my permit. Again, it's principle that I have an approved permit that says do a mitigation plan. Last meeting, we all agreed to a mitigation plan. I think that should be the updated condition.
I'm sorry. I don't know how to approach this without sort of rehashing sort of, how we got here. There was significant adversity towards, anything, and a lot of disagreement and some sort of unpleasant words spoken to Commissioner Bell, which got glossed over, which were not accurate at all. And, I would like to see, some urgency, even if it's very generous urgency, to getting this done, just given the way we got here, because the plan was not to do any of it at all, and I'm sorry that's my perspective. I'm only one. Let me just ask, Commissioner Bell, do you think we need to have a time frame on this, or should we just keep it moving forward and just,
we've had timeframes for schedules for many of these planting plans. And the idea here is to mitigate the removal of vegetation that was already there. So every season that goes by, there's a greater chance for erosion and the establishment of invasives. So I would be inclined to think that this should be done sooner rather than later. I don't agree with you, Valerio, that it should be generous. I think that this should be remediated as quickly as possible.
And so what time frame would you like to see in this?
I would say that, by the end of the growing season, everything should be in there, in the 50-foot buffer.
So that's the 6 trees and the work that Will was to do on his own property?
Yes.
Commissioner Berrigan?
Yes, that makes sense to me to do it that way. As Tom
Commissioner
described.
McIntyre? Oh, sorry, Kathy.
Just as Tom described, yes. Makes sense.
Commissioner McIntyre?
Yes, I agree. And just noting that, the mitigation is the change, but with that is the time frame for the mitigation. It's not really an added condition, it's just part of the mitigation. It's not unprecedented for us to have, a time frame, especially in the buffer zone. And to Tom's point, with try to avoid the establishment of invasives and the like.
So Tom, should we put a fine? Would you? I mean, we're going to vote on this at the end, but would you put a finite? Is there a date that you would think, like,
Well,
June?
the end of the growing season is what, late September, something like that.
So the end of the actual growing. Okay, yep. Do you want to just do the end of September, September 30th?
Well, depending on the season, I mean, we could have a really warm fall. People were planting into November, I believe, last year. At least certain people were. I don't know how successful it was, but I mean, I
I mean,
don't,
obviously, you need to plant for success, otherwise you're gonna start all over again there. So, I mean, it makes sense to get it in sooner.
Let's
You
do-
actually get stuff in this spring rather than waiting till September.
That's why I said June, like, but but maybe if they plant for the fall, some people plant stuff in the fall as well.
Sure.
You think,
Depends how much you're planning, so.
how about October 31st, just to be, would that,
Yeah.
so, and then the finalized planting plan, does that include the 6 trees, Charlotte, or is that just the work on his property?
no, because we just put it as a condition. Per our
Okay.
discussions last
Yeah.
time.
So just number 3 should have completed by October 31st, 2025. I don't know.
Uh,
Is that a
I was
statement
waiting
or
on the
question?
applicants, on Will and Victoria.
Sorry, I'm just getting plugged in because my kids are eating.
Why don't we do this? Let's just they have an opportunity to read it while we're drafting it, and then let's go back through and get their comments on the whole thing.
Okay, so Victoria, just to catch you up.
But no,
this
hold on, no,
is-
let's just do number 4, and she can read it while we're drafting
Okay.
it, and then we can go back through and talk through the rest
So
of it.
yeah,
Otherwise,
these are the 2 conditions that were most recently added to the draft. The 6 additional native shade trees, at least 2 to 3 inches in caliper if deciduous, and or at least 6 to 8 feet in height if coniferous, shall be planted somewhere within or near the Beechwood Doan intersection area on town property with coordination and approval from the town tree and parks foreman. Selection of native species shall come from the commission's approved planting list. And then I don't really have control over this, but I just wanted to note that the planting shall be maintained by the town. Like I can't like
we're
guarantee.
not
that
forcing
those-
them to maintain
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
I can't
And then-
guarantee the trees are
and then
gonna be
as far
there in
as-
50 years, so.
Number
Uh,
5, I think when we left it, it was 3 Girl Scout.
Oh, it was
meetings
3?
before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sure they're going to want to do as many because they're so involved with the Girl Scouts, but I'm not trying to force the public on their property all the time.
yeah,
Uh,
and then the goal of this was obviously to implement a shared public benefit of proposed agricultural space and use on the property. So we talked about bringing on the Girl Scouts and or other interested community organizations. Like, I don't know if Wild Cohasset has ever, I think you guys may mention that last time, I can't remember, at least 3 times a year to implement a shared public benefit of proposed agricultural space and use on the property. And then this is from the
and then
original,
hold on, back for number 5. I think we should have that sunset after like 4 years.
what was that?
We should have it sunset or end. We can't have like in perpetuity that they have to have 3 Girl Scout trips on their property. Let's just have it sunset after 4 years or something.
Wait, what after?
Number
for-
5. So the interested community organization requirement shall terminate after 4 years. I just
Um,
I don't see leaving that out there.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, can you repeat that?
The availability of the property shall only continue until the end of 2029. The requirement for the availability of the property shall only continue through
It-
2029.
Maybe it's simpler to, that it terminates with the certificate of compliance.
Okay, yeah. But that could be much sooner.
You could.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and then obviously it's their choice, of course, if they want to make that available
Yeah,
afterwards.
and it
But for the
sounds like
life
they
of the
do.
permit, either for the life of the permit or until a COC is issued, I mean, that seems very reasonable, obviously.
That's good.
Not making this
Thanks,
into
Tom.
perpetuity.
And then number 6,
That's
that
unchanged.
was existing. Yep. All right. So now that Victoria's had a chance to take a look and Will's had a chance to take a look, hold on. Do any of the other commissioners have any other edits to this? I just don't want to belabor it. So if I'm interrupting a little bit, I'm just trying to keep this one moving along.
Yeah, and
so-
Mr. Chair, we are at half an hour, so just want to
So
kind
do
of think
any
we
of the
can wrap this
commissioners
up.
have any further edits to these amended order of conditions? Okay. Now, Victoria and Will. So I understand Will's position on principle. I think, digging into principle sometimes maybe got us here in the first place. And we were all sort of digging into what we thought was principle as opposed to just kind of like figuring out a way through it. And then eventually last time we kind of, had a break in the ice, figured out a way through it. So I would hate to scuttle this, because somebody has a perceived idea that this violates some, a principle when this is in effect what we've all agreed on. So anyway, with that being said, I don't know, Victoria or
No,
Will.
talk.
I don't think we've all agreed upon that. Everything planted this
Yes,
year.
I'm, okay, sorry, you guys, there's a lot of red here that I'm stepping into, and when we started talking, when I joined, we were at 4. 3 is really new to me. I thought we were having this continuance just to talk about placement of the 6 trees. We never brought up a due date outside of the 5 years on our permit. So I'm not sure where this planting plan, which I'm assuming is the shrubs, right?
That's the plan you provided to us. Sorry. That's
It's
the
your plan.
wetlands buffer one.
We
It's
would
the 19 bushes around.
right,
your
right. Yeah, the
garden.
planting plan, totally get our planting plan. But we said we would complete it by 10/31/25.
No, we added that now, given the fact that
Yeah.
the way we got here was sort of like, there was a lot of pushback on the idea of doing any mitigation. So
No.
the consensus of the commission was to try to get that done this year.
Yeah, so I thought we were continued and we would left that in good faith, that all we were talking about was getting approval to put the 6 trees on town land. If you had problems with the planting plan, also, we should have talked about it last
We
week.
don't have a problem with the planning plan. It was just the timing. And I think,
That's what I'm struggling with. No plan with the planting plan, but now saying it needs to be done by the end of this year, that I have a problem with that.
so why don't we do this? So if it's not something that can be resolved, Charlotte, do you mind sharing this document with them, and let's continue this for a couple weeks, and then, we'll put it back on the calendar. They're already doing their project. I got to tell you, just my impression is using, sort of expecting us to continue operating like just expecting that everything would be done in good faith, unfortunately, has been kind of burned a little bit. I'm going to be frank with you. And so
How we would never close our permit then? I mean, we have it, and that's really what we're bound to, is the permit to be able to close it, and we have 5 years. I don't see why now. I mean, I feel like the goalposts are shifting again a little bit from where we left it in good faith last time. I'm really struggling. I thought we both extended olive branches to meet in the middle, and now I feel like we're backpedaling, and that's on you guys, not us.
well, we're not operating in good faith anymore, unfortunately.
You're not, or we're not.
We are not expecting you to operate in good faith. Is probably the
Why?
right way to
Why?
say it.
After the last meeting, I thought we were all on great terms. What happened? I mean, we've done
Not that
everything you
the
wanted to.
consensus was just because you guys are able to do.
Can I-
Why don't we
I-
do this?
I-
Why don't you guys have a chance? This has been, sorry,
Can I-
Tom.
We're not
Point of
going to
or-
do it
point
by
of
the end of
order
the year. We're just
Yeah,
not.
Tom.
Chairman, point of
Yes,
order.
of course. Please, Commissioner Bell.
Yes, we're at half an hour.
Yeah.
Continue, or we can have a vote.
Yeah, and so Victoria, why don't we do this? Why don't we have Charlotte send you this? You guys can mark it up, express your concerns, do it, and then let's come back in a couple weeks, because this is going to go back and forth, and it's just going to get a little hostile, and that's not my goal at all. And if you want, and I don't mind, taking a one-on-one meeting about this, and you can meet with the agent too. I wouldn't violate any open meeting laws and talking to other commissioners about our one-on-one meeting. And I certainly don't speak for the whole commission, so you would only get my opinion during that meeting. But I don't think we need to belabor it now. You guys can, I mean, there's nothing for you to be too frustrated about. You guys are doing your project. Things are moving along, and so why don't we do that? Would that be acceptable to you, Victoria and Will?
I just don't see what we're doing here. I really don't. I'm sorry. I like to continue. We'll just keep continuing because we're not aligned on that.
Well, we'll take a vote, and
And
then
then what?
that might not turn out as well as you'd like it to.
So what then happens then? You throw it down? This is all over and we have to start over again? Then we have to get Adam
Essentially.
Broad
Well,
feedback.
I'm not
from-
saying that's necessarily what would happen. I don't know exactly what would happen with the vote. You might have different commissioners in front of you than these. The issue is, I mean, I'm just going to take 30 seconds and say it. The issue is that we either made a mistake or were misled when we did the second approval on this project. Then the chair of the commission went out to your property and said,
Okay,
hey,
we don't have to
talk
do the whole.
no,
merger
no, no,
model.
no. And I counted a bunch of trees, and those trees were cut down anyway, despite asking you to. Those trees were in the 50-foot buffer. Then we asked Will, hey, what do you want to do for mitigation? And his answer was nothing. Screw you, essentially. And I hate to say it, but that was the vibe. And then
Mr.
we
Chairman,
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, it's either continue or have a vote.
Sorry, Commissioner Bell. I agree. So just so you understand why we're trying to put a time frame on it.
I'm really
but-
disappointed. I really am. We'll
So
continue.
are
then.
we, Victoria.
Very
I'll tell you.
disappointed.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
they would continue. Let's.
Will you accept the continue? Will you agree? Well, I mean, it's really up to us because you don't have there really isn't a statutory deadline on this. So,
Let's ask for a date for continuance, Mr. Chairman.
yeah, Charlotte, should we come back on April 3rd?
Yeah, that's fine. We can just put it first on the agenda again to get this over
Does
with.
that work for
and have
you
it be really
guys?
quick.
No,
Victoria and Will?
we're out of town.
Oh, 4:30. Okay.
Yeah.
4/17?
Is that the next one?
Yeah.
Will's away. So it's
Okay.
what's the next one?
That would be the first.
You're
probably
missing
first-
your season to plant this stuff.
That'd be the
It's
first
gonna
week in May.
Yeah, let's see. It'd be the 2 Thursdays
How about-
after.
All right. I have one suggestion, and if not, we can continue to early May.
Yeah, it's May
the-
1st.
Would the commission be open to? I don't even know how to say this. I think I'll just be really, really brief. There is an urge from the commission to want to see the mitigation plantings put in the buffer zone. And we understand that you have 5 years to do the work, but the commission wants to see the
Hey,
restoration. of
Charlotte,
buffer
let me
zone.
just interrupt. They
Oh.
understand they're being, I think let's continue this to April 1st.
We can't.
April
We're
1st?
out of.
May 1st, May 1st.
No, May.
May
May.
1st, I'm sorry, May
The first
1st.
meeting in May.
First meeting in May. We'll continue this to May 1st. I thank you very much for your time. Charlotte, can you share a copy of
Yeah, I'll send it to them.
amendments to the order of conditions?
Mm.
All right, see you guys May 1st. This hearing is continued until May 1st. Thank you.
Have a good
Okay.
night.
You
Thank you.
too. I appreciate your helping me along there, Commissioner Bell. Okay, next. Our next public hearing is NOI 2507. Hold on one sec, I apologize. Continued from March 6, 2025 for 53 Windy Hill Road for an addition and driveway reconfiguration. The hearing is now resumed. Charlotte, who from the applicant team is available? Catch us up, please.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly note there were some comments probably related to the first hearing. But it was basically just suggesting a continuance because Ms. Ashton was late to the hearing. But with that, we have Cameron Cameron from ECR LLC, Jed Hannon from Atlantic Coast Engineering, and Chad, I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting your your last name. Chad Gutner, who's the applicant.
Great, guys. So give us the updates.
Sure. Good evening, Jed Hannon with Atlantic Coast Engineering. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, Jed.
Okay. Let me just start by sharing my screen if that's okay. Okay, great. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So this proposed project is for an addition at an existing, single-family dwelling and reconfiguration of the driveway. It's a fairly straightforward project. The resource areas, again, just to recap, bordering land subject to flooding, FEMA flood zone A, BVW within the 100-foot buffer, inland bank to a perennial stream, and the 200-foot riverfront area. This is an elevation view of the proposed home. I'll just scroll down and try to keep this pretty simple. Okay, so the gray area, everybody can see that?
Yes.
Okay, the gray area is existing. The pink colored areas are proposed locations. Let me just qualify that. So the area on the left side in the rear, that is an existing deck that is pervious. They're proposing to enclose that deck. In the front, that is a proposed bump out and garage area. And that basically goes over the existing driveway, which is already impervious. So that calculation, that square footage is really almost negligible with respect to pervious, impervious. And then the other two areas help make up the 600 plus square feet of proposed increase in impervious. As a result of the proposed increase, we have to do an administrative stormwater permit application, which we've completed. And we have a couple of proposed Caltex in the rear. I shouldn't say a couple, 4 to be exact. Staff, Charlotte in particular had some comments on the site plan. Putting in minor comments for the most part, just putting in the 200-foot riparian line. There was discussions about the mitigation and where that was going to go. Let me just make sure I'm sharing the site plan. Hold on one second. Okay, everybody can see the site plan, correct?
Yeah, I believe it's the same plan you just had up.
Yep. All right, so that's the rattlesnake run in the rear. There's the arborvitaes that are just offset from there, and then they have the backyard area, which is mainly grass, and the shed to the left. And you can see the proposed addition areas, just like shown on the architectural drawings, hatched in pink. And I'm going to, can everybody see the proposed mitigation plan?
Yes.
Okay, great. At this point, I'd like to hand it over to Cameron with ECR so he can talk about the proposed mitigation and the site walk he did with Charlotte and the conditions out there. And then we can answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Jed. This is Cameron Larson with Environmental Consulting and Restoration. So we had presented this mitigation plan at the last hearing. We ultimately continued the hearing so we could do a site visit with Charlotte and review the actual areas where we're proposing the plantings. Jed, do you have available the photographs that we had submitted?
Yes, I can scroll right through. Can everybody see those?
All right, excellent.
Yes.
So we looked at we have the mitigation split up into 2 sections. The first section is about 900 square feet located right along the wetland edge at the very rear of the property behind those green giant arborvitaes. So that's that top photo that you're looking at here. It's difficult to see, but that cluster of maples on the left is essentially the wetland line. So what we're proposing to do is restore that whole area basically from the wetland line up to that fence with native plantings. You can see it's essentially void of any any understory there. So we're going to be putting in a mix of native shrubs in there. We had originally proposed, or we gave the applicant a little bit of wiggle room in terms of species in the initial proposal. We spec'd out that they would be chosen from the Cohasset plant list. Because of the location and the fact that it's fairly shady back there, we spec'd out specific species on the plan now that's going to be most suitable for that understory area. So that was one revision we made to the plan. Jed, if you just scroll down, we'll share just some other images here. So that's further down that fence line. You can see where the plantings will really be able to enhance that inner buffer zone. If you keep going down, we'll have some photos of some invasives. So the area is certainly not littered with invasives. There's some burning bush in that top photo. And then in the second photo down, there's some Morrow's, or not Morrow's honeysuckle, but honeysuckle vine and some bittersweet vine. So we have the opportunity to manage those invasives. Like I said, it's not an abundant amount of invasives, so we certainly expect that it'll be able to be managed without herbicides. So we're simply proposing cutting at the base of the stem, removing, and then using a spade shovel to remove the root balls. And then we'll prioritize those areas for planting wherever invasives are removed. And if you scroll down to the last photograph, I think we have a photograph of the other area. Okay, so two photographs there. That top one, we did identify some yard waste right along the wetland line. So that'll all be removed as part of this plan and restored with plantings. And then the very last photo indicates about a 460 square foot area abutting the shed that'll be restored to a native buffer as part of this mitigation. So if you want to go back to the plan, Jed, I can just kind of recap. So essentially, we're meeting the requirements for the riverfront area mitigation. It's a 2-to-1 mitigation as compared to the increase in the degraded riverfront here. We walked the site with Charlotte and the homeowners. We were all in agreement that these areas would be appropriate for what we're proposing. I think we have this site provides a good opportunity to provide a real enhancement to that 50-foot buffer zone and really the interests of the Cohasset wetland bylaw. So between the native plantings, the invasive removal, I think we have a really good plan here for the site. So if you have any questions regarding that, I'd be happy to address them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cameron. Commissioner Bell.
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. We, in the recent past anyway, we required that the selection of plants not just be from our list, but be consistent with the vegetation that's nearby, the native vegetation that's nearby. So, I mean, the idea there is to preserve the forest or whatever is a condition that is consistent with what's already there, or what has been there in the past. The other comment is that I can see these are lined up like somebody waiting in line for the bank or something. We ordinarily would like to see random plantings here. This is not to be a curated landscape. You're trying to replicate the native vegetation and the native distribution of vegetation. So I don't have a problem, I guess, with the area around the shed, but on the I guess it'd be the east side of the arborvitae hedge there. It looks very curated to me.
So just to clear that up, I mean, the plan, it's sort of a graphic representation. They're not going to be, in a row. They'll be staggered. They'll be naturally placed. I know there's some rock back there, so we're going to have to kind of work around some rock. There's no intent for this to be a landscape area. It's not an area, those arborvitaes are giants. You can't even see this portion of the property from the backyard. It's proposed to enhance that very inner buffer zone that's essentially void of an understory right now. by no means is it intended to be a, you know, a landscape feature. And prior, you know, we can certainly set the plantings and, you know, give an update to staff when we have them set and provide some photographs of the random pattern of them. That's certainly something, you know, we've done in the past on projects. But it'll be all, you know, overseen by a wetland specialist, and the intent is to create a natural environment back there.
Okay, so I understand that it is just a graphic issue for that linear feature there. How about the plants that are growing there? Do you have any notion of what's growing on the other side of the of Rattlesnake Run?
It's fair. The understory is fairly void in most areas. Aside from the burning bush, there's a good amount of Norway maple. We're not proposing to remove any of the Norway maple canopy, but there's certainly sprouting Norway maple. But the species we've all selected does really well in shade in that buffer zone, and they're all species that are very common through the South Shore. You know, if we felt that there was something that would do better, we could go with it, but we're confident in what we're proposing right now.
So you've had a wetland scientist out there, and one of you must be a landscape architect, is that right?
Wetland scientist, not a land. This is not a landscape plan. It's a wetland mitigation.
Yeah. So nobody's really taken a close look and wondered why there's no understory out there, right? I mean, suddenly this is going to look kind of out of place, it seems to me, compared to the rest of the forest there.
I mean, we'll see when things grow in. You know, we've been on site during this winter. We'll see how things really grow in. But again, I think there's a great opportunity here to you know, provide a betterment to this site in the area by enhancing this buffer with native plants. I think that comes straight from, you know, it's one of the interests of the bylaw. I mean, we're here to protect that 50-foot buffer, and I think this site provides a great opportunity for that.
I'm not disputing that. That's not even my question. I'm just wondering about the plants that have been selected here and whether or not they're consistent with the surroundings.
Yes, these are native plants to the South Shore. We find them all over the place.
You're missing the point.
Site specific. You're asking if they're site specific. Yeah. There's certainly some pepper bush down in the wetland. We're proposing some pepper bush. I can't say for sure that I saw any mountain laurel out there, but that's kind of a nice evergreen that provides some wildlife habitat during the winter months. So it's a nice plant to have back there for wildlife. And then the witch hazel is a common plant we find along wetland boundaries all through the area. So,
so that's the kind of answer I'm looking for.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Berrigan,
No, I don't have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Commissioner McIntyre.
Yeah, just looking at the plan, my attention was drawn to the shed, and I was kind of just looking at the site near map. Do you know if that site looks like that shed looks like it was installed in sometime in 2022 and it's in the 50? Do we know if that was approved or what the deal is with that?
I could comment on that. So I know a certificate of compliance was issued based on an as-built that was provided. We did not do any of the past projects at this site, but I know there was an open order of conditions that has been closed out that showed the shed on an as-built. So my understanding was it was previously permitted. I don't have the exact date for that. But Charlotte did advise us at the time when we were filing the notice of intent for this project before you that there was an open order of conditions. That was approximately a year ago, and all the conditions have been satisfied, signed off, and closed out.
Sorry, Judge, just to clarify, the COC that was closed out was from 2010. So I don't think that,
Okay.
that was, yeah. There was a a COC that I think it was issued, but then unfortunately, we issued it like, what was it, like last year or something, but unfortunately it got lost in the mail, so we had to reissue it. But the original NOI was from 2010.
Okay, yeah, like I said, I didn't know what year
Yeah.
this dated back to, but okay, thank you.
So it seems like the shed was built in 2022, is that I haven't got your map up. Chris, can you?
Yes, sometime after April 12th, 2022.
So that's why, so that's when at least Kathy and I were on the commission. I don't recall this, but
There,
I don't remember everything.
Yeah, the shed was built in 2022. I want to say August or September of 2022, something like that. It's not on fixed pilings, it's on concrete, like just blocks, thin pads that are 2 inches thick. Yeah, and that shed could be moved if you needed to be moved. Where it would go is towards the front.
Yeah,
How big is
So,
it?
so were you aware that you put a shed in the 50-foot buffer? Or were you unaware of the?
Well, we were not aware of it because the 50-foot buffer at the time was mapped to a different location. So that's where we're at.
Is there room to pull the shed west and get it out of the 50?
Yeah, you can pull it. I mean, you're talking about 7 feet, right? So it could be moved 7 feet towards the road, which is west, which is, not that big of a deal.
So you don't have an opposition to that?
No. I'm happy to conform to whatever the commission needs to have happen with that. Yeah, it's not a big deal.
All right, so let's add that as a condition should the COC issue. I mean, should the order of conditions issue.
Fair enough.
Okay. Yeah. It's not fixed.
Yeah. I'm
yeah.
looking at it right now. It's almost like, I could see a concrete pad just on the corner. I had a shed like that in the house. So
it's just on the ground. I mean, it's got like crushed stone underneath it, 1 inch crushed stone, and drains well, but it's kind of in a quirky spot. So yeah, it's not a big deal. I'm sure when we're doing construction, we can probably just pick it up and move it over.
And then so the crushed stone, Commissioner McIntyre or Bell or Berrigan, I mean, do you have a thought on what to do with the crushed stone that's currently under the shed in the 50 as well?
Well, I think you can probably capture as much of it as you can and
Use it.
put it down. Yeah, use it again.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it helps with like erosion, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that if you're on the property like Charlotte was, for example, there's a good sized slope from the west side to the east side, going all the way back to the brook. And so if you moved it west, say 7 feet or whatever it is to get outside the 50, you're not at that part of the yard, you're not talking about a big slope, but you would want the stone there to prevent more erosion and to level out that area just a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's why it's there.
So you're going to need to replant that, extend your native plantings that are shown on the plan right now.
Yeah, that's fine.
To fill in where that shed had been.
Honestly, it might help the conversation. I don't want to jump ahead. It's not my territory, but just as a homeowner, if you move it to the west, right, you're going to pick up, that shed is 8 feet wide and 12 feet long. So you're going to pick up whatever that is, another, some number of square footage that we can use to put some more native plants in. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, that would be great. Actually, it would be good. Not a bad thing.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
And I'm okay making that a condition to be sorted out with the agent. I don't know. I don't know if they need to come back with another plan to do that.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
That all works for me too. Yeah. Not a
Okay.
problem.
So, and then another condition I had to, sort of address Commissioner Bell's concern was, mitigation plantings shall be placed so as to mimic a natural state and not be placed in or not intentionally symmetrical. Is
Yeah.
that a
No,
condition?
I don't want to like that either, because you're talking about an unlandscaped area already,
Yeah.
right? And the prior drawings in the last meeting, I wasn't in that meeting, but if you saw them, they were in front of these, what are actually Leland cypress trees, which are like 65 feet tall. They're huge. So everything would die there if you planted it there. So like we thought about it and intentionally moved them to where you get more sun, which is actually behind them. And it would be better. I don't want a row of stuff that looks weird in a native area anyway, which I fully appreciate. So yeah, we would be staggering all that stuff anyway, just to plant it so it looks like it was never there in the first place, right? Like it was natural.
Or always there, whatever.
Oh yeah, that's
exactly.
what I meant. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not. And then I guess the next thing I had. So on number 4, under your mitigation notes, you talk. You're not planting in the arborvitae row, right? That's staying. Those are giant arborvitaes. You're
Nothing
talking
will
about.
grow.
Yeah. What's that?
Yeah, nothing will grow there. Not even
Yeah.
grass. So if you're in that area, like go ahead, keep going. Sorry.
Oh no, that I know. I appreciate that. This is I want to hear it. It's your property. So
Yeah.
and then there's like I guess there's some biomass that had fallen from those arborvitaes, which potentially provide some sort of minute habitat. And I get the idea of cleaning it up, but do you think that could be that's all within the 50 instead of taking it and disposing of it off site? It is biomass. Do you think you could find another? And then I'm happy to be corrected by the agent or any of the other commissioners. But instead of just sort of cleaning it all up and throwing it and getting rid of it all, is there another place on site where we could take that dead wood?
Yeah. So if you're looking at the house from the front, right? So looking from the west to the east, on the right side of the house, not the renovation side of the house, but the other side of the house, there is I don't know. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm at a spring concert at school if there's noise in the background.
Oh.
So there's like a little, I would say little, there's a good area over there that it's like a dip between us and the neighbors. And it's sort of outside the 50. It's kind of on the line over there, but it's all just leaves. There's a ton of trees back there. There's a bunch of maple trees. And so naturally the leaves fall there. And if we're raking, sometimes we'll just throw the leaves there because it just turns to compost and dirt anyway over time. So we could move if you wanted to mitigate that. And all that, by the way, all that waste that was mentioned in those photos is just leaves. There's nothing else. It's just like, leaves from a maple tree. There's nothing, there's no sticks, there's no wood. It's just leaves. There's no, cuttings, anything.
I was just thinking about number 4 in your proposed mitigation plan. Prior to planting, the dead wood and the arborvitae canopy will be removed, and will be removed to increase sunlight in the mitigation area, which is okay. Oh, are you talking about the actual trees themselves being trimmed?
Yeah. So I think that language, correct me if I'm wrong, Jed, it is related to if you're standing at that fence line and looking at those cypress trees, the back side has like some dead wood going up, maybe, I don't know, 15 feet. Whereas the front side is like full on like evergreen, right? The yard facing side. So the proposal was to like trim some of those dead wood branches. They're thin. I mean, they're no longer bigger than an inch wide, just to create a little bit more light to the extent it's necessary for the plantings that'll go there. But whatever, that can stay. It's been there forever. Those trees, I don't know when they were planted. The prior owner planted them probably 20 years ago, but they just grow like a weed because of the water that drains there and sunlight that they get. So
trim them and make them more healthy. I just,
Yeah.
I'm always reluctant to in the 50 to take away dead, biomass and just dispose of it elsewhere. So if there's somewhere for you to put the the trimmings that little squirrels and chipmunks can hang out in, 10 years from now, I'd love that, or whatever else it is. But other than that, with those additional conditions and comments, I don't really have anything further unless any of the other commissioners do. So I appreciate your time. So there's an administrative stormwater permit issued. We're talking about work within the 50. So if we were to, continue this forward, we would be, issuing an order of conditions on the NOI and a variance for work within the 50. Is that right, Charlotte?
Yes, sorry.
That's okay.
So-
And then are there other conditions or suggestions that you think we should be considering, before we, think about this further? Or move it along?
Yes, but I'm gonna propose something to the applicants team. Based on our conversations tonight, I had prepared draft conditions in advance, but now I'm adding quite a lot to them. So would you be interested in doing something similar that we just did for the first hearing, where we can continue to 4-3 and I'll send them to you guys and make sure everyone's okay with it, make sure the commission's okay with it, and then we can come back for a quick vote instead of talking about it for another 20 to 30 minutes?
I mean, if the conditions, this is kind of a question for the contractor and I guess Jed, in general, and it's sort of a timing issue. But if the conditions are what we just described, which is like move the shed a little bit to the west and stagger the plantings and do a little bit more plantings adjacent to the new shed location, if that's what you're going to write, I'm fine with that. I don't know that I need another hearing. Yeah, I mean, we prefer that you approve it tonight because I'm fine with those conditions.
I don't want you to have to pay professionals to come to another hearing either. We would put
Yeah.
you first. We would put
Yeah,
you first on the
Char-
next agenda.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's okay. I trust Charlotte. I mean, I trust Charlotte's,
Yeah.
that she's gonna type what we said in this
Yeah,
meeting. I'm fine with that. I don't need to see another meeting unless you guys.
No,
require,
I
but
mean,
I'll-
I'm cognizant of the, getting professionals to come and wait and come and wait. We would put you
Yeah.
first on the agenda, so it wouldn't take them a long time. But Charlotte, do you think, you could just take a couple minutes and sort of knock them out right now, and then we could, entertain a vote on this?
I mean, I can show you guys right now. I was finished
Yeah,
typing
go ahead.
Yeah,
the
let's
dead
do
wood
that.
thing, but just
Yeah.
to clarify, I had drafted conditions before this conversation even started, so that's what I had,
Yeah.
and then I just added the 3 that we talked about, so that's what I was kind of referencing, like, I don't
No,
know.
let's just knock them out right now and get these guys on their way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I have to finish typing the wood one, but
Take your time, don't worry.
Yeah, good.
So-
You're
I
good.
think that'll be better for everybody than having them come back
Yeah.
and
so
Yeah.
the all details and instructions of the proposed mitigation plan shall be followed as part of this order with the following additional conditions. The proposed mitigation plantings shall be staggered and not planted in a row behind the existing fence. The existing shed shall be moved outside of the 50-foot buffer to the BVW, boarding vegetated wetland for short. The prior location of the shed shall be restored with native plantings to be added to the proposed mitigation plan, which shall be approved by the agent. And then we had said the pruned dead wood from existing arborvitae shall be
Food for squirrels. How about that? Food.
what was
Shall
that?
be left on site. Shall be left on site in a place agreeable to the property owner and the property owner. It's fine as long as it's left on site. I don't
Yeah, that's
care.
perfect. I'm fine with that.
Okay, I just said for wildlife habitat because
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
I mean,
Um,
that's yep.
agreeable to the
Property
property owner and agent. Okay.
Yeah,
And
I don't even,
then-
to the extent that you want to get involve yourself in where they put it, that's fine. But as long as they leave it on site, I'm good.
Okay.
There's plenty of space, so
Okay.
we're not worried
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
And then obviously, question to the commission of if the restoration work needs to be completed by a certain time, any changes to the plan shall be submitted in writing. I don't think we need that one anymore. But the monitoring period, this was something that ECR had noted in their mitigation planting plan. I think it was the monitoring period has to be, shall be determined by the commission. So we've typically stuck to 3 years. And this would be in terms of, like any restoration mitigation plan. Basically, Chad, this would include, after the initial completion planting report,
Yeah.
the plantings would be monitored for 3 full growing seasons, and this can survive the issuance of a certificate of compliance. The monitoring reports are usually like you have, Cam and Brad come to the site, check the plantings, make sure everything's okay, determine if anything's dead and needs to be replaced. This is more for replication, so I'll defer to Cameron on his expertise here if we think this is really necessary for mitigation plantings, but I think it's kind of assumed based on our discussions tonight that we expect this to be successful, so I don't know if we need this. Usually the 2-year mark is a successful, like 75% in 2 years is a thing for replication, I believe. I don't think that's necessarily required for mitigation, so I can take this or leave it. And then this is kind of already noted in the plan, so I can take it out, but the planting work within the riverfront and buffer zone shall be done by hand. And then I added the natural undyed mulch and loam may be brought in for proposed plantings. We just don't want to see obviously like dyed material and,
It's ugly anyway.
yeah. And
Yeah,
then
and no, I don't want that either.
yeah. And then these are kind of like our standard
Yeah.
checkpoints for notices of intent and stormwater permits. So the following site inspections are required, additional inspection being required as appropriate. So pre-construction, that's already standard in our template. And then before you install the infiltration system, like usually Jed and I will come out, inspect the hole and the system before it's backfilled. So we'll take a look at that before that happens. And then this would be the checkpoint before you start any of the landscaping and planting mitigation work. We'll just make sure that we may not even need to do this since we've kind of already visited the site, but it's just a standard checkpoint. And then the final inspection and then any additional inspections as needed. So this is nothing new. And so, yeah, it kind of goes to.
Let me chime in here on number 2. I would say remove
Yeah.
that if at least, just take that out. And
So
then
take
keep our
this sentence out.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then keep our
So-
standard 3 years.
Okay. So yeah, you guys are okay with not monitoring like a success rate because we kind of expect it to be successful?
If it's not there in 3 years, they're gonna have to start over, right? So,
Right, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it's already,
no,
yeah, for a COC, it's gonna need to be done anyway, so.
Yeah.
It would mean that if it's not there in 3 years, everything's going to be dead, right? So it
Right,
would be
right.
Yeah.
And
So-
then
Okay.
I don't even need not D. Unlike previous hearings, they're gonna need a COC, right? So all this stuff's gonna have to, unlike a previous hearing, so I don't necessarily need to give them a date for the mitigation restoration because they're gonna want us to sign off on the final project anyway. So
Yeah. Right.
So
Okay.
that's up to the rest of the commission, but I don't need that D unless somebody else feels strongly about it. All right, so it looks like that's cleaned up with no variables.
Okay, so
do
Chad,
any-
just want to make sure you had the opportunity to read all this. I did read 90% of this. I just want to make sure. But yeah, so for the monitoring
Yeah.
period shall be 3 years after the completion of the initial planting work and the completion report. That's already noted in the proposed mitigation plan that ECR submitted. The monitoring report shall come from the professional, wetland scientist and submitted to the commission by December 15th of each year. This time point is very common. Actually, I've copied this from ECR's restoration plans, so it's a pretty standard checkpoint, and shall include at minimum site photos, status of all plantings, and replacement of any dead specimens.
So,
Go
Chad,
ahead.
Jed, and Cameron, do you have any concerns with any of that? Sorry, Chad, did I interrupt you?
No, please go. Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's
Uh,
it. I'm just trying to, yep.
Everything sounds reasonable. I don't see anything contentious, and
Yeah,
thank you, everybody, for your input.
I'm good with all that. Yep.
So with that, I would entertain a motion if somebody wants to make one.
I move that we issue an order of conditions for 53 Windy Hill Road with the conditions that have been stated by Charlotte and entered into our meeting minutes, in addition to our standard conditions for NOI.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have, did I say 2501? I did.
No, but you said the address, so
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
enough for
Yeah,
me.
NOI
20
5007, I'm sorry.
Yep. And then second by Kathy Berrigan.
Berrigan, second. Yeah.
Roll call vote, Commissioner Bell,
Bill, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Valerio Romano, aye. So that passes 4-0. So the order of conditions is issued. Now, I believe we also need a variance for work within the 50. Anybody like to make a motion?
I move that we issue a variance to work within the 50-foot buffer at 53 Windy Hill Road.
And for Any second?
Berrigan, second.
Roll call vote, Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
and Valerio Romano, aye. That passes 4-0. That public hearing is closed.
Right.
Good luck, guys.
Right.
Thanks,
Planning
everybody.
Commission.
Great project.
Appreciate it.
Very
Yes.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay. So next we have NOI 2501 continued, I think, back from February 6, 2024 or 2025 for a proposed pier at 94 Black Horse Lane. This hearing is now resumed. I realize that, sorry, Charlotte.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I accidentally kicked Kathy out. Just give me one moment.
Oh, that's okay. Can you kick me out accidentally later?
No. It's
get
when
a little
people
late.
jump on and off and my mouse cannot click fast enough. Sorry about that, Kathy.
Darn.
Sorry, Kathy. I was
Okay.
trying to change everything.
Okay, so next we have a continued NOI 2501 from February 6, 2025 for a proposed pier at 94 Black Horse Lane. This hearing is now resumed. I realize that that we've been trying to find a peer reviewer, and finding an efficient peer reviewer has been something of a challenge. I also understand that the applicant may have done some further study on their own in the meantime. And I wonder, Charlotte, can you get us up to speed, or maybe somebody from the applicant team will get us up to speed and we can hear the thoughts of the commissioners?
Yes, but real briefly, Adam, is there anybody else I should be promoting?
I don't know if you see John Zimmer. He had another matter, but he thought he might be available.
No, unfortunately. And I didn't know if Paul was going to join us.
He is unfortunately not available, which
Okay.
is why Brad Holmes is here.
Okay, so yeah, real quickly, I'm sorry, Adam, could you please introduce everyone for the public
Oh,
record?
thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Brodsky, an environmental and land use lawyer representing the applicant KD Custom Builders LLC. Nino DeNuno is the manager of the LLC. Carmen Hudson is our professional engineer with Campos Hudson Engineering LLC. John Zimmer from South River Environmental is our wetland scientist, and as I mentioned, he may be joining us. He had another hearing this evening. And we do have Brad Holmes with us. As you know, Brad is a professional wetland scientist with ECR, and he's standing in for a gentleman by the name of Paul Caruso. Paul is a coastal and fisheries biologist with an extensive resume, including working for the Division of Marine Fisheries between 1992 and 2014. And because he's not available this evening, we asked Brad to be here. Should I bring you up to speed as to what we've done?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you. So at our last hearing, we had several action items. First, we were asked to revise the site plan to reorient the float skids. So Ms. Hudson submitted a revised plan which orients the skids parallel to the float of the river. And second, you'll recall that there was an extensive discussion regarding shellfish habitat, the accuracy of the shellfish mapping in the area of the Gulf River, and wildlife habitat in general. And that led to the discussions of a peer review, and you asked us to work with Ms. Pechtel to agree upon a scope. And given the fact that the focus was on shellfish and wildlife habitat, we thought it best to actually provide data to the commission on those points, because we hadn't previously studied those, and that may help inform the discussions further. So we hired ECR and Mr. Caruso to conduct a shellfish habitat reconnaissance, and Brad is prepared to provide you with an overview of that in Paul's absence. And we also asked Mr. Zimmer to conduct a wildlife habitat evaluation. Again, I was hoping that John would be able to join us, but Brad is also prepared to speak to that. I believe that Ms. Pechtel has reviewed that information, and in fact requested the survey transects for the shellfish survey, which we also provided to her. And so we suggest that given that we've done that work by credible experts, And that work has been reviewed by the agent. And given the results that you're about to hear, that we suggest that peer review may not be appropriate, but we wanted to present this information to you. So Brad, do you want to take us through those points, please?
Sure. Thank you, Adam. Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with ECR. I performed a shellfish habitat assessment with Paul Caruso on March 4th. We went out at low tide, walked across the salt marsh, and were able to get into the project area. Before performing any transects and doing any survey, the first is just looking around and seeing what you can see before you put your quahog rake in the ground, and we didn't find any siphon holes, and typically you'll see ribbed mussels along the edge of a salt marsh, which are great filter feeders, although ribbed mussels aren't shellfish listed as a species for like blue mussel, but there weren't any signs of shellfish in the area visually prior to our survey. Paul performed 2 transect walks out on either side, or basically within the center line of the proposed pier and adjacent to it. The area is very soft mud. It's almost dangerous. You got to keep moving. You don't want to stay too long in one spot, because you might not be able to move easily out of that location, because there's about 2 feet of very soft organic muck mud. There were no shellfish. We didn't find any shellfish in the plots that we performed along the transects, based on that mud area being unsuitable for shellfish habitat. It wasn't a need to further the investigation, because once you find that it's mud like that, and not even any shell hash in any means, it's unsuitable for shellfish. So we were able to provide that in the report. We also provided the commission with the map data that shows that the area is prohibited for shellfish, for shellfishing from the state, and there are no mapped shellfish resource areas within the area. There is a small area of mapped shellfish habitat for quahogs, possibly to the north, but other than that, significantly north, near Border Street Bridge. But other than that, the rest of the Gulf River doesn't contain mapped shellfish resources. So we were not able to find anything towards shellfish habitat. So it's our opinion that the float, if it were to rest on the tidal flat or the land under the ocean, would not have an impact to that resource, because the resource is not there due to the unsuitable substrate. That's really it, in the sense that we just don't have it in that area. I suspect the rest of the Gulf River, at least in that location, is similar. With that, I'll one more aspect as far as responding to John Zimmer's report. He performed a wildlife habitat evaluation, and the state provides certain criteria if you have significant wildlife habitat features, and as he documented, that area does not contain those features that you would look for when performing a wildlife habitat evaluation. I'll turn it back to the team.
Thank you, Brad. Adam, anything else to add before we hear from the commissioners?
No, and I just note that report contained photographs, and obviously we have the transcripts. So all of the information is available. We did not display that. Hopefully you've had a chance to review it, but thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bell.
I think that satisfies me that there is no shellfish habitat.
Commissioner Berrigan.
Yes, I agree with that.
Commissioner McIntyre.
No questions.
Yeah, I don't really have anything additional. I mean, I know that shellfish in the winter burrow down, and you wouldn't necessarily find any. How deep was the transects done? And I'm sorry if I don't know exactly how that works.
We use we use quahog rakes lined with a mesh, so that we're not missing any seed within the pole. So it's a typical clam rake. You're going down
2 inches.
in that location. We were able to go down, at least a foot, beyond a foot, because it was so soft with mud.
Okay.
Usually you'd go down to if you're in a nice habitat with sandy substrate, you'd go to the teeth of the clam rake. So you might go down, say 8 to 9 inches. But it was so soft you could dig up, a foot and a half of muck.
Okay. Do any commissioners beyond the shellfish have anything else that they'd like to bring up? So I appreciate the additional study and the willingness to really show us that there is not a habitat that's going to be disturbed by the installation of this pier, and also as we proceeded along, shortening the pier and listening to the comments of the commission. I know we can't make everybody happy, including neighbors and whatnot, but we can do our best to do our due diligence on the project. Is there? I don't recall. Was there any further sort of discussion of, I guess it's not necessary, of, the boat sort of sitting out there at low tide, but given that there's no shellfish there, it, might look a little awkward to have a boat sitting in the mud, but not super unusual. So is there anything else that any commissioners want to hear on that issue? Okay, great. Charlotte, any other thoughts that we should have in our minds before we proceed?
Yeah, so sorry, just a quick confirmation. So it seems like the commission is satisfied with the 2 reports from Brad Holmes, Paul Caruso, and John Zimmer on the wildlife habitat summary and the shellfish findings?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, I do have conditions, but I don't know. I will defer to the paid professionals on the call. Do you want me to go through them? I can't remember, Adam, if I had sent them to you a month ago. And I don't know how long the commission has had time to look at them. I'm touching them up right now, but I don't know if we want to kind of do similar to what planning and zoning do and draft the conditions and then come back and have a quick vote, or if you guys prefer to hash it out now. We do have long meetings, so.
I think we prefer to hash it out tonight. We've had a number of meetings and
Okay.
taken up.
Are there any other approvals required from anywhere else in the town before this project actually gets done?
It may or may not need a building permit for the portion constructed on land, but it's already received approval from zoning.
Adam, is there anything else that you guys need?
Not from the town. We will have to go through the state permitting process with Mass DEP, and we'll have to file under the general permit for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Charlotte, do you need a minute to clean this up? Do you want to do it while we run through it? I want to make you comfortable, but I think, I want to make sure, like most hearings, particularly recently, I don't want to, waste the applicant's money on professionals if there's something that we can accomplish tonight, given what seems like the progress of this application is.
Yeah, the only condition I was going to add here, I just cleaned some of these up from what you had previously reviewed from previous meetings. The only condition I was going to add that the permit is contingent upon, any applicable state and federal permits.
Sure.
Okay.
You wouldn't have a problem with that, Mr. Brodsky, would you?
No, that's already in the general conditions of all your orders
Yep.
of conditions.
Yeah.
And Adam, have you do you remember if you've had a chance to review these conditions?
It's been some time. I
It
don't think
has,
it's going to
yeah.
take a great deal of time because these are your standard pier conditions. So
For the most part, yeah. All right, well, let's run through them quickly, Charlotte, and not belabor stuff that
Yep.
that's standard that if we all know it, but
Okay. I know this is a little overkill. Eventually, it is on my list to redo the entire template, so I apologize. So that the order is contingent upon all other applicable state and federal permits. Any changes to the approved plans, okay, because of those permits, shall be submitted to the commission in writing prior to implementation of those changes. That is really standard. For the commission's reference, the permit goes through the, the state and federal processes. And those changes are usually communicated as part of that review to me, if there are any changes from DEP. So, and then prior to construction, and I'll state for reference that this was a part of all previous conversations at all other hearings. I did not add anything brand new as of tonight. I did highlight a bunch of conditions to see if the commission still wants them. So prior to construction, the following shall be reviewed by the agent and supervising contractor. The supervising contractor shall meet with the agent, harbor master, and/or building inspector as appropriate to inspect the staked pier center line on site to determine the location is accurate and acceptable prior to site construction. This would pretty much just be inviting anybody else to the pre-construction visit. The center line is already staked by the professional land surveyors as part of that pre-construction visit. So this is just giving the harbor master and/or building inspector an opportunity if they wanted to come out, but
I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Mr. Brodsky?
No,
Okay.
Okay, keep going, Charlotte.
And then prior to construction, the following shall be implemented. The proposed construction methodology copied below shall be followed as part of this order. And this is copy and paste from Ms. Hudson's summary that she had already provided. That industry standard is to lay down plywood to minimize foot traffic impact on salt marsh while driving the piles. The plywood is removed at the end of the day. Once piles are in place, staging is set between the piles, so walking on the marsh is not necessary for the remaining construction of the pier. There was a second sentence about how the construction methodology was used in Norwell for a 1,000-foot long dock, so I took that out. All work for the pier, float, and gangway shall be constructed during the winter, November to March season when vegetation is dormant. All work shall be done on the constructed portions of the
Okay,
dock.
Stop, Charlotte. Let's go back to 3B. I think Mr. Brodsky might want to amend that a little bit.
Mhm.
yes, so I don't know why we need a time of year restriction because we have measures to protect the salt
Mhm.
marsh. So.
I think, again, it was part of previous conversations. I think it may have been a recommendation from DMF, but I think now that we know there's no shellfish, I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
We don't, I respectfully suggest we don't need that. And we like to get in there and get out of there as quickly as we can.
Okay.
Do
Mr.
any of the
Chair?
other commissioners have a strong feeling one or the other as to when this project gets done?
What is the project schedule here? You say you'd like to get in and out of there. If you were to receive an order of conditions tonight, when do you think you would be underway?
How long does the Army Corps take to get back to you?
Oh, yeah, right.
Right, so
Months.
it's going to take us close to a year to permit. That's why we want to have
Oh,
as much freedom to be able to do the construction because we have a long road to go down.
I think the thought about this is not so much the tile flats as the marsh. And if you're going to be putting plywood on there over and over again, it's going to do it's going to set it back. So I'd see a strong preference at least. I don't know whether it needs to be a condition, but it really should be done when the marsh is dormant.
Again, I'll have to defer to our wetland scientist on the science of that. Again,
Okay.
I've seen these projects done all the time, and we have to take great care to protect the salt marsh.
Okay, so why don't we change that to say that it should be inspected while it's underway, and if it looks like there is damage being done, that it would stop, it'd be suspended.
Oh, that would be the case all the time, Mr. Bell. I mean, we welcome Ms. Bechtel observing the work. We
Okay.
can't alter that salt marsh, so.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
sure
can
we-
get to this
Okay.
at the end, but I added, this is something that I'm probably going to recommend moving forward. I added just a middle point after they've driven the piles. Because that's like when the work is usually like, they're putting the boards down to install the piles. And then once they've done all that, they usually can work from those piles and build the dock out. So that I added a middle point. Usually dock permits historically, at least within the last couple of years, we've done pre and final, but this can be a middle checkpoint. I think we just did this for a few other projects we recently permitted.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. So it sounds like we can take this out. The commission doesn't have concerns about the timing of
It's
construction.
fine to remove it for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't heard anyone else speak up, Charlotte. So go ahead. Yeah, remove B. Or
Okay. And then, all work shall be done on the construction portions of the dock to the maximum extent possible to minimize foot traffic in the marsh. That's pretty self-explanatory. Any, work on the ground in the marsh shall be done utilizing the plywood boards or mat. This is a little, it's a little repetitive. So if the commission's fine with me taking it out, I mean, this was what I had typed before, and then this was submitted. So I mean, it's a little repetitive.
you could take out C.
Okay. And then
And
this,
then you could say,
yeah.
Yep, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was just gonna say, I mean, we've already done a shellfish reconnaissance report from, so I assume we
Yeah,
do
so
not
you could
need this
remove
anymore.
that too.
Okay. And then I don't think any work will be done on a barge. But we already have a standard condition about that, but I did say and shall be coordinated with the harbor master just because, but I mean, I don't know if a barge is even gonna
Yes.
be needed.
Ms. Hudson, Mr. Brodsky, do you know definitively if you're not going to need a barge?
Yes, a barge will not be needed. All the work will be done from the, going from upland and over
Yeah.
the marsh.
So
And then staging and storage of construction equipment and materials shall be located in an upland location on the site out of all wetland resource areas and shall not be stored in the marsh. All equipment fueling shall be done, and then I'll defer to the commission and applicant team if they want, offsite and upland location. I think offsite is pretty standard, but I've also seen really far away from the wetlands, like at the driveway entrance or something, and not in a marsh or any wetland resource area. Any disturbed resource areas as a result of construction shall be restored as needed to pre-existing conditions as determined by the agent. So this is, I mean, hopefully the boards, we don't need any of that, but
that works. Let's keep going.
And then I guess, do we want both offsite or in an upland location? Because the upland location, it doesn't say outside of a buffer zone or anything. So do you want it to just be straight up offsite?
Well, how about in an upland location outside of the buffer zone?
Okay. Okay.
Well,
Okay.
Ms. Pectel, are you deleting off-site because we can't do any work on someone else's?
Well, it's either or. So it gives you the option
Okay.
of refueling offsite or in.
Yeah, like if the contractor fuels at his place of work before he drives over to,
Thank you.
yeah. And then,
We just don't want any gas to leak into the marsh.
yeah. Anyone have an opposition to this?
No, I like that.
Okay. And then after project completion, the following shall be implemented and shall be ongoing conditions for the property with and after the issuance of a COC. Should the float remain on site during the off-season, the float shall not be stored on or touch the marsh at any time. Upon removal of the gangway or float for the off-season, the components shall not be dragged across the wetlands and /marsh and shall be stored in a upland location if kept on site during the off-season. This is literally in our regulations. Any vessel attached to the float shall not be allowed to rest on land under salt pond or the tidal flats. So we had already, this was a concern from previous hearings. I don't know if this is still a concern now with the current design from the dock.
I have imagined Mr. Brodsky has a comment on C.
Yes, we strenuously object to that condition
Yeah,
for all of the same reasons.
I think we resolved C and we're removing it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I mean, this was like this, these were like various discussions.
Yeah, they're out. I think that was part of this whole back and forth. Unless Tom, do you have?
yeah, no, I'm satisfied. I mean,
The C and D are out, Charlotte.
the issue was whether or not there'd be shellfish there that could be disturbed.
Yeah.
Okay, and then same thing with this one. I mean, this is understood, but I don't know if we need a condition for it. Because obviously if there's scarring and damage to the resource areas, it's gonna be on them to fix it. Either during or after construction, obviously.
I think that's just too vague to be.
Yeah, it's
usable.
overbroad and vague. I was about to say the same thing.
Okay. This was another previous comment from our initial hearings that permanent signage to be reviewed and approved by the conservation agent shall be installed somewhere on or near the pier to relay requirements for any seasonal storage of the gangway or float. This was the intent of obviously this property will be sold to future owners who may utilize the dock in different ways.
Again, I don't understand what this is intended to be.
To just remind future property owners what they can and can't do when they pull the floats off the marsh. I'm sorry, when they pull the floats off for the off season.
So you want a sign on the float that says "Do not store on marsh"?
That was, again, it was part of initial conversations to ensure that that doesn't happen in the future. I mean, it's not, the sign isn't going to prevent people doing it, even if they see the sign, read it, and then just don't care. But I mean,
A lot of new homeowners don't know. I think the sign could be, I don't know. I mean, I like it. I sort of wish they all had it. I know this would be sort of, at least in my experience, kind of novel here. So I would, let's just see what the other, Commissioner Bell, what do you think about having a sign?
We have talked about just having a handout for people that were moving in to areas like this about swimming pools and the fact that they are within a buffer zone. And so I don't see a reason to put a sign there. But I do see a reason to remind people. So that's maybe part of our responsibility to move forward.
Yeah. We are definitely in the process of trying to expand education on this topic, so.
All right, let's remove E then.
Okay.
Let's try to keep it moving along. Yep.
And then this is not requiring anything, but should the applicant, owner, or future owner consider a shared dock setup with surrounding properties, all modified recorded plot plans and/or easements shall be submitted to the commission.
Yeah. Can we please eliminate that? That's surplusage.
I agree.
Okay. And then site inspections, I briefly mentioned them, but additional inspections may be required as appropriate pre-construction to review the staked limit of work with the contractor, building inspector, and harbor master as necessary, just inviting them to my already, required pre-construction. Post-pile driving site inspection, review location of all installed piling sets with supervising contractor prior to deck construction. And then final, to review the as-built site conditions with the contractor and engineer as needed, and then any additional inspections as necessary.
Any issues, Mr. Brodsky, Ms. Hudson?
No, Chair Romano.
Okay, so I'm satisfied with those. So it looks like on this, we'll need to issue the order of conditions and a variance. Am I correct, Charlotte?
Yes.
I'd entertain a motion on the order of conditions for NOI 2501 for 94 Black Horse Lane.
I move to issue an order of conditions for NOI 2501 94 Black Horse Lane with the conditions that have just been shown on screen and are part of our meeting minutes.
Second, anyone?
Berrigan, second.
Thank you. Okay, roll call vote. Commissioner Bell?
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan?
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre?
Ms. McIntyre, no.
Valerio Romano, aye. That passes 3-1.
Thank you very much.
And now we need to have a variance as well. Commissioner Bell?
Yeah. Yes, I move to issue a variance for work within the 50-foot buffer at 94 Black Horse Lane,
NOI 2501.
NOI 2501. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Bell?
Needs a second.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Second.
Berrigan, second.
Commissioner Bell?
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan?
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre?
Ms. McIntyre, no.
And Valerio Romano, aye. That passes 3-1. The public hearing is closed for NOI 2501 94 Black Horse Lane.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
Have a good
Good
night.
night.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Oh, yeah, what did I miss?
I was distracted. I did not see a comment from the audience.
Oh, okay.
It's closed.
We just closed the hearing.
No, but that's not something we would do on this anyway. You
Okay.
read I mean, that's not, so to whoever made the comment, I appreciate the concern, and it's definitely something that the commission will consider on future projects. It wouldn't really be something that we could resolve directly with this application, unfortunately. The comment was, is there a way to limit the number of new docks, piers in this Upper Island Cove? 30 years ago, there were 5 on the river. Today, there are 32. And I appreciate the concern, and unfortunately, it's not something that we could hold this applicant to address that. I think it's a larger town-wide concern that maybe we take a look at the bylaws or whatever else if that's important to you. So I appreciate the comment. It, you know, although it was considered after the vote was taken, it wouldn't have had, we wouldn't have been able to use that to affect the vote. So thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Good
Have a
night.
good night.
Yep. Have a
you,
great night,
guys.
folks. So give me 1 sec, guys. Do you mind if we take a quick 5-minute break?
Yep.
Great.
Okay, it's 8:19. Let's come back at 8:25.
Okay.
Just waiting on Tom.
Awesome. And Valera, did you want to take the lead on this next one?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, Tom, are you there? Can you hear us? Hey, Tom, I think we're ready. Are you there? Mr. Chair, want me to give him another 30 seconds?
Yeah, I'd love
We
to have
kind of
Tom
need him.
as
We
part
need
of
him
it,
for
so
a
let's-
quorum.
Yeah. Do you want to shoot him a text?
Yeah.
I'm back. I'm back.
Oh, okay.
Oh, hey, Tom.
We're about to call in somebody to check on you.
Don't call 911, really.
No. All right, Mr. Chair, you ready?
Yeah. So this next item I asked Charlotte to add to the agenda because it only came to my attention recently. A gentleman named Kevin Weaver had reached out. This has sort of been his cause for the last 5+ years. Trying to sort of police the decommissioning of the Pilgrim Power Plant. And I started looking into it some, and what the proposal is greedy and disgusting as far as I can tell. That's my opinion. So this company Holtec, just briefly summarizing, I sent you guys an email from my personal. This isn't something that is properly before the commission in the sense that it's an RDA or stormwater permit or an NOI, but it's something that I think that given the fact that we periodically vote no on, a pier because of what it would maybe do to the or due to a resource area, or maybe another one of us doesn't like the idea of chipping down a hillside, or taking out an oak tree that's been able to survive in the ledge for decades. This is such a bigger deal that I thought we could talk about it. And my goal was sort of to, I don't even know, maybe take a vote of expressing our displeasure or our disapproval, but really to sort of get the, a sense of what the commission thinks. And I can have Mr. Weaver come and speak to us if you want, but I don't know if that's necessary because one, nothing we do is going to really have any practical value. But ultimately, there are elected officials that would like to get reelected. And if enough cities and towns tell them that this is not acceptable, they may consider that as part of their reelection goals. there are other towns. This is actually on their spring ballot. And my goal originally, when I got on this, I wanted to bring a citizens petition. It's only 10 signatures for the scheduled annual town meeting, and I was going to bring one, but unfortunately, it's a 75-day notice for citizens petitions, and I had missed the deadline. But towns like Plymouth, Mashpee, Yarmouth, Dennis, Eastham, and Wellfleet have all approved to have it on their ballot. Many other towns are also going to have it on their ballot just to sort of express the disapproval. Now, the idea is that this company Holtec, and this is sort of a summary in my own words after just Googling it for a while, they won the bid, and as part of that, they purchased the now non-functioning Pilgrim Power Plant, and won the bid to decommission it. In my understanding, there's about $1 billion in funds that are going to that decommissioning. And a particular concern right now is the 1 million or so gallons of wastewater that's on site. And so their first proposal was just to dump it into Cape Cod Bay. That was met with serious opposition and was defeated, although they're appealing that defeat. There's 3 basic solutions for this. The next one is evaporating the wastewater. Now, evaporating the wastewater has its own problems. The evaporation has radionuclides in it, which include cesium-137, strontium-90, tritium, which may have some positive aspects, but also some negative ones, and others. They become volatile. They can be breathed. They can go into the ecosystem. They cause health risks to humans and destroy habitats. And then finally, evaporating doesn't even solve the problem because the toxic sludge is left behind, and that needs to be shipped away anyway. So the third and most responsible and unfortunately costly way to do it is to, ship it away. They'll treat it somehow. They'll get it on a train, and they'll take it to places like West Texas and bury it deep under the ground, surrounded by many feet of concrete. And, while there's no perfect solution, right? We in an ideal world, we'd like to all make it disappear, but that's not the way it works. And it's a bummer that the Pilgrim Power Plant didn't run efficiently and wasn't very cost effective and had to be decommissioned because it couldn't compete with natural gas and other forms of energy economically, which, was sort of surprising that nuclear can't, but this was just a crappy plant from the get-go. And so for me, the idea of evaporating this 1 million gallons of wastewater and having, nuclear waste floating around above us until it gets blown to God knows where and falls back to the ground is just disgusting. It's like part of me, I would move almost. It's like I'm almost in a hair on fire kind of thing, right? Like people sort of thought this only affected the town of Plymouth. This goes far beyond Plymouth. Who knows? With strong winds and rain, who this will affect. I have a young dog. I have young children. Myself, I die from cancer anyway, eventually. But I'm sort of being facetious. But I just don't know the idea that they even plan to do this, and it's really just because they want to do it on the cheap. And that's not my problem. And we live a few towns away and a few miles from Plymouth. And so my goal would be to get, your input and you to express, if I had my druthers, you to express displeasure and maybe even take a non-binding, completely worthless vote saying the Cohasset Conservation Commission, disapproves of this as an alternative, and that makes it into the minutes. And then those minutes maybe eventually get to, somebody running for re-election. And so that's kind of the 2 cents. I won't belabor it beyond that. Open it up for any conversation that you may be appropriate. If you'd like to know more, I can have Kevin come to a future meeting. I just didn't, these kind of go late night. It's already sort of late. I didn't think a third party who, when this doesn't see, it really just seems like a no-brainer. No, this can't happen. And so there we go. So with that, I'd turn it over. Let's see if Charlotte has anything to start with.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one quick thing, Valerio. Thank you for summarizing all that. That this has definitely been, Kevin had approached me well over 2 years ago, and he has been keeping, I assume, me and various people informed. So it is, I have seen this evolve over the last 2 years. And I will just quickly note something that I think is also relevant to today, 2025, that the power of public opposition may not seem like much, but in great numbers, it actually does a lot, whether for better or for worse. And the original plan, as Valerio mentioned, was to, disperse the wastewater into the bay. And there was a state, I forget what it was. It was some sort of committee meeting that was a meeting with our senators and the Holtec people and dozens of members of the public and organizations and all these people and coalitions that had all expressed opposition. And so, yeah, the Holtec people were grilled. To make a long story short, like the senators and representatives were relaying all the public comments of displeasure and disapproval. And so, yeah, just noting that, whether or not you agree or disagree with it. I mean, I will say that even though it may not seem like much to discuss this publicly, take a vote, and maybe eventually have it go on to town meeting and coass it, I mean, it does make an impact, especially in large numbers.
Thanks, Charlotte. Yeah, and so I would, it's town meeting time right now, so I was going to go to the selectmen, because even though Kevin Weaver's been trying to get on their agenda for quite a while, for some reason he was on it and then they took him off it, and I don't know why, but I'll get on it, and I will, get the soccer moms in Cohasset I'll light their hair on fire too, but at a select board meeting, and then if it's still relevant at our special in the fall, that may happen. Usually it does. I would, try to do a citizen's petition for that. But I'm starting with my own little universe and the people that I can talk to who I know care about habitat and the environment, and that's you guys. So yeah, thank you, Charlotte. And just, I'll open it up. Tom, start with you to the extent that I need to run this. I mean, I'd rather have it be like a sort of informal conversation.
Sure. Probably none of you are aware, I've been in the nuclear industry since 1982.
Wow.
And really at the pointy end of the spear, I explore for uranium. And I've done this off and on for decades.
Wow.
So I know quite a bit about it. I'm not an engineer, obviously. But I am a scientist, and so I know an awful lot about radiation safety, what makes these plants tick, how they operate, the whole theory. And I would start by saying that the plant was built in about 1983, I believe so. And it ran successfully until just a few years ago, really. And one of the things that I think people don't quite appreciate is that it produced about 25 to 30% of all the electricity in Massachusetts. And it kept our rates low for decades. This was a result of a nuclear build out that took place in my lifetime, starting basically in the 60s. And these plants are old. Pilgrim probably could have been refurbished and kept running could have been relicensed, run for another 20 years. We wouldn't be looking at electric rates like we are now. They've essentially almost doubled. We've made a number of what I would consider serious blunders. In one of those is to actually shut it down. Regardless of that, decommissioning a plant is always problematic. One of the biggest issues, of course, is disposing of the leftovers, the nuclear waste that exists. And there's several categories of this. You referred to some of them. I don't think you quite understand the categories and how each are proposed to be dealt with and what the consequences of that are. There's high-level nuclear waste, and a lot of it is stored at Pilgrim. Basically, all the spent uranium fuel that's ever been used at Pilgrim for 40 years, something like that, is still on site. It's in casks, and many decades ago, it was supposed to be shipped to a permanent waste facility somewhere out west. It was never quite decided where that might be. Initially, it was going to be Yucca Mountain, which was in Nevada, and that proved to be very problematic because it's a volcanic area lots of faults, lots of earthquakes. It was a totally inappropriate place to put it. The most logical place to put it was in a salt dome, either in New Mexico or Texas. The Texas congressional delegation outnumbered the Nevada congressional delegation by many, many dozens of people, so it was not going to go to Texas. So the U.S. Geological Survey, who I worked for, decided, well, where else can we go? And politically, it only appeared as if high-level waste could be stored in Nevada, not geologically, but politically. So we've worked ourselves into a bit of a jam. We have 123 operating nuclear plants. We're down to about 105 or something like that, and the numbers are dropping. And as each one of these is decommissioned, it's a problem. It's not easy to do. It's expensive. One of the reasons that the nuclear buildup halted was because of the inflation, largely caused by the Vietnam War. And many plants that were started weren't finished. So there's a whole history of this. The opposition to Pilgrim goes back to 1983, and many of the people that were young and idealistic then are still fighting this fight. But the fact is that the plant is and must be decommissioned and must be done in a safe way. I don't know whether Holtec is quite the villain you say. I haven't paid that much attention to it. If it's not profitable, they wouldn't have bid on it. We do live in a capitalist society after all. So yes, if it costs $1 billion, that's what it's going to cost. They are highly regulated. The nuclear industry is, for good reason, is highly regulated in the United States. And in fact, almost every country except for Soviet Union, for example, didn't regulate much of anything. That's why Chernobyl happened. But to get back to Pilgrim, they do have somewhat less than 1 million gallons now. As of today, I think it's around 900,000 gallons of water that has some cesium in it, has strontium. These are isotopes. They're dangerous. Has a lot of tritium, which is dangerous. It's never safe. It's never good for you. It's not terribly radioactive. It decays by beta decay. A beta particle can't penetrate your skin. It's a very low energy radiation. So, for example, you could take a bath in it, and you would not be it would not be able to penetrate your skin. However, the fumes coming from the bath have tritium in them. They go in your lungs. It lodges there, and it's going to beta decay. Can cause mutations. Can cause cellular death. The exposure would be relatively minor, less than an X-ray probably, the dentist. We don't worry about that, but in fact, we're irradiated all the time by one means or another. It seems foolish not to have put this water into Cape Cod Bay, because if it goes in the bay, it's not going to evaporate, and it's not going to end up in the atmosphere where we're going to breathe it. It seems like one of the worst ideas I think I've seen for disposing of this. I also read today a study that was done of where this would go if it were discharged into Cape Cod Bay. Some of it would end up actually going right past Cohasset, but most of it would actually go out to sea past Race Point and be diluted. The farther it gets from the plant or the point of discharge, the less dangerous it becomes. Pollution, as it's been said, is a solution to pollution. And literally that's true for this. So the wastewater thing is an issue. The cost of shipping 900,000 gallons of radioactive water to Texas would make the $1 billion budget pale in comparison. Nobody's ever transported that much radioactive mass across the continent, ever. So it's not feasible actually to, I don't think, it's not economically feasible. It's feasible, it could be done, but it's not financially feasible to try to dispose of it in Texas as if they would accept it.
Won't it just decay on its own?
Half-life for tritium's 10 years. So every 10 years, half of it has decayed. But of course, then it takes 10 years for another half of that to get down to a quarter. So
That's just the tritium, right?
that's the tritium. That's right. The other radionuclides have half-lives that are somewhat longer. They're actually more dangerous. Cesium-137 is a serious radionuclide. It replaces calcium in your bones, and it can lodge in an organism with bones or shells and irradiate it for the rest of its life, basically. At the levels we're talking about in that water, diluted in 1 million gallons, that's probably not a real big issue, but when you do evaporate the water course, it gets more concentrated. So that they're going to transform, if they evaporate it, they're going to transform a low-level radioactive waste product to a high-level one. So that's not a great idea either. So, you know, basically you're taking something that's marginally dangerous and making it highly dangerous. The amount of cesium and strontium that's going to escape in evaporation is going to be relatively low. They're heavy elements. They want to stay in the water. They don't want to go in the air, basically. And so that's a serious issue to be kind of fooling around with, to think about evaporating this. But they're actually, the public's leaving them few choices, which is not a good situation. The public really doesn't understand much of any of this. They're scared of radiation. Of course, they should be. It's a dangerous thing in too much, in large amounts. So I guess the bottom line is here that the people that actually know something about this are watching. They're requiring, just like we do. This is regulated. They don't let them do stuff that's stupid, generally. We do make sure that they do it. We have to do something. We can't leave it there and kick the can down the road. That's what we've been doing for decades with all of our nuclear plants. They should have had a means of disposing of their waste on site or nearby. That's what they do in Europe. And it's highly successful. France has been generating 70% of its electricity for 4 decades. They have the lowest rates in the world almost. They export electricity to the rest of Europe. We could have done it had we done it the same way the French did. We probably wouldn't be having these problems, but we didn't. So I don't know that we either know enough or to make a statement certainly to the select board. None of us are experts in this. I know more than probably most anybody in town, except for there's probably a few physicists that know more, but I wouldn't want to stand up and try to make any sort of a public presentation about it. I sort of am now, but I don't think we have any attendees other than the 5 of us. But
There's a few people, Will's on, a couple of people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I think that we should leave it in the hands of experts here. I don't think that I would want to tell everybody to just shut up. We should be watching. Oversight by everybody is good, but to offer solutions that we are not capable of really seeing or proposing on sound basis is not a good idea. We shouldn't be weighing in on this. We should make sure that the watchdogs are not asleep and that the public is informed, but the public also needs to be ready for the information. They need to listen. And some people aren't. They just aren't listening. They're not absorbing some of this. And that's true in a lot of cases in our society now. Things are getting worse, not better, in terms of people deferring to people that do know what they're doing. And lots of misinformation gets spread very easily these days and gets people fearful of things that they should be concerned about, but not fearful of, I would say.
I don't know much about it, but what's the, I mean, is there a time frame on the facility? Is it intended for another use, or why can't it just be left to decay, even if it takes 60 years? What's Holtec want to do with that land, and what's
Before they can do anything, they have to remove all of the high level nuclear waste that's stored in canisters.
that's-
And that can be moved. That can be moved by rail. And there are protocols to do that. And that would go to who knows where these days. We still, as a society, we still haven't arrived at a nuclear waste facility. We don't have one. This country does not have one. We have 125 nuclear reactors, plus a lot of military reactors, waste from submarines, waste from aircraft carriers. We still can't agree as a society of where we're going to put this stuff. Now, there are plenty of geological places that are perfectly suitable for this. Salt domes are ideal. But people in Texas are saying, no, we don't want the whole nation's nuclear waste. And so we're paralyzed. What are we going to do? We have all these plants. And so each one is storing. We can't, the half-life of the high-level waste is long, and these are highly radioactive things. If one of those casks were to break open, it would require people in probably robotic vehicles to reassemble it. I don't know whether you've been following what's happening at Fukushima. I've been watching that for quite a while, and it's been terribly expensive and risky for people that have worked there. And they still don't have a solution. They have more radioactive, more tritium-rich water than Pilgrim does, quite a bit more. And they're discharging it to the Pacific Ocean. They have no choice because the water keeps accumulating. There's holes in their reactor vessel and groundwater seeping in. So they've run out of places to store it, and they have a huge storage facility there, tank farm after tank farm after tank farm, full of radioactive seawater.
So Tom, one of the things I heard you say though was that out of the available options, evaporating, in your opinion, might be what the worst of the available options.
Yeah, certainly. I believe that that's true. I'm not.
So I'm not. So one of the first things I said in that email was, I'm sure you guys know more about this than I do. So that I fess up to that. And another thing, I actually always believed that nuclear power was probably the most efficient and environmental friendly way to do things in the long run. But this one just didn't. I mean, and this is probably just me reading, the antagonists, about it. But all I'm asking for here is, some sort of expression that, I don't even know if we present to the select board. It would just be us, expressing, disapproval of the evaporation as a way to do it. I wasn't saying we should resolve Pilgrim's problems between the five of us, or, with Charlotte as the fifth, or seven if we had the whole commission on, whatever, 6 plus Charlotte is 7. But just that this evaporation idea, which is what's next, and they're appealing the wastewater one. So maybe the wastewater comes back in, and you have you have what you think is right actually happens, because they're appealing that. But I would and as someone who spends, when it's warm enough, all my waking time in the water, and then otherwise spend my waking time breathing. Both of them sound like disgusting ideas, but particularly the evaporation. And I'm happy to hear that you believe that's sort of the worst of the options, because that's all I want to do is sort of have us express.
Well, that's just, I don't know. It just sounds like a bad idea to me.
Yes, it does.
You evaporate it, you put it in the atmosphere, and we can breathe it. Well,
yeah.
The prevailing wind is from west to east, so it's going to get blown out to sea.
Well, sometimes,
So-
but
so-
then it gets rained on, and then we have the habitat for, which is really, for me.
That's true, but it's also true that the atmosphere is a big place, even if you just look at the volume around Massachusetts. And so the dilution again would be phenomenal. I mean, you're evaporating it into an enormous reservoir, whether you do it in the ocean or whether you do it into the atmosphere. But there's no avoiding the fact that even though it's diluted, it's still present.
Yeah, I
Just-
mean,
just a very low
so maybe we
concentration.
get back to the pouring, dumping it into the water as a larger reservoir than evaporating it. If we can stop this evaporation as a solution, I'm a little skeptical. I wouldn't
Again,
want to.
I don't know that it's the worst solution, that it's the worst alternative. It just, all I'm saying is it doesn't sound like a good idea to me.
Me neither.
But no doubt that I know we have had and probably still do have the capability of our scientific community has the ability to find the best solution among these many. None of the alternatives are good.
So I don't want to say that Holtec is necessarily evil, but they are profit motivated. And when you're talking about, money, people tend to do not what's right for the person next to them, but what's right for them. And I think we've seen that over and over. And this is definitely a profit driven thing. So the idea that we would sort of expect, the watchdogs to come up with the best of all the possible solutions and Holtec to do what's right, regardless of how much profit they make on it. I think, I don't want to say that it's naive to think that's going to happen because you don't seem like that kind of person, but I just don't see that. I think they're going to try to get, have as much of this fund left over to have in their pockets at the end of it.
We've made a decision. We've made decisions over the decades that government shouldn't be doing certain things that the private sector can do better.
Well, that's what watchdogs are for, though, right? That's why we don't have.
So government's been relegated to simply being project managers or watchdogs, regulators. But so who else does it? Somebody who needs to make a profit, right?
Yes.
Nobody's going to come here and clean up a nuclear power plant out of the goodness of their heart. Now, the government could do it, but government's too big, isn't it? That's what I hear on the radio.
Well, the government can't even agree on funding, healthcare for firefighters who ran into
right.
the
So
towers.
obviously, even though the government could probably do this, and it would not make a profit, it would take it would take taxpayer money to do it. I don't know whether they could do it cheaper than Holtec or not. Probably not.
Our government doesn't do anything, so I'm not expecting that as a solution. I'm just thinking of the.
So then you can't be critical of somebody who's doing it to make a profit.
Well,
can't have a both.
I mean, I can and I am, frankly. I'm not them necessarily specifically. And I'm not even going down that road. I don't know enough and I haven't had enough time to do this. What I'm critical of just specifically is the idea of evaporating this wastewater intentionally into the atmosphere. That's all this is about. I don't have enough knowledge, to opine on anything further than that,
And Mr. Chair, I'm not trying to cut the conversations off, but we do have some COCs at the end, and the people in the audience are most likely here for that as well. Although I'm sure we're all learning about this.
But
So
they live here too, and
Yeah.
they may, and if anybody wants to raise their hand, you're welcome to give your 2 cents. But Chris and Kathy, do you have anything further that you think about this or what? No, yeah, Kathy.
No, I actually hadn't really. I wasn't aware of this, so I really hadn't thought much about it. But I am quite concerned, and I'm going to just do some research on it and talk to some people that know a couple of people that work there. Just get their opinions, and I'm listening to you and not happy about it, but.
Okay. I mean, that's
where I am right now.
Yeah.
I certainly wasn't, able to make anybody experts, even myself. And and like I said in my introduction of what we're talking about, the most I can hope for is already sort of what I've heard. So, Chris, do you have anything else that you wanted to add on this?
I mean, yeah, you just I think I saw somewhere like 60 years it would take for a lot of the contaminants in the wastewater to break down to, relatively safe levels. So that's kind of my vote. Just leave it. I mean, they have to do something with the containerized sludge. But at least it's already containerized. Just gotta find a place for that. So I don't see, unless there's like some structural integrity issue where it's gonna break and leak out, like just leave it. Just leave it. and
Well,
let
it's
it-
already evaporating, so I think that's how it got from 1 million to 900,000 or so. And they're almost intentionally evaporating it. They're heating it for their employees, right? So the facility has to stay extra warm, and it's already evaporating currently. It's just not being actively evaporated all in one big rush, which would potentially have a much even more negative effect. But already right now, this wastewater is going into the atmosphere, and that's sort of that's kind of why there's some urgency as well to it, because Chris, if we left it for 60 years, the water would be gone, and this would be a fait we would have.
Well, I don't think they can move forward with decommissioning the reactor unless they do remove this.
Yeah, there's actually a handbook on the website for the whole decommissioning process, which I kind of peeked through.
Right.
Without your expertise of, I'm just a lawyer. I don't understand big sciencey stuff, but I did peek through it, and yes. And so, I'm just like, sort of after reading about what would happen, if these various radioactive materials made it into the atmosphere and broke down into these tiny little bits, and potentially were breathed by my kids and my dog, and went into the water with the fish that I swim with, and
I don't think you should worry too much about it. I don't think that the low level waste that we're talking about is a hair on fire public health emergency. And it's
Okay.
unlikely, I think that it's unlikely to be one.
So how about this? Kathy sounds like she wants to maybe even ask some people. She knows people that work there. Maybe in another few weeks, if we just have another sort of informal discussion between us, after Kathy's had a chance to look at it and whatnot. I would like that, because I'm really interested in this, and I think about, like I said in the beginning, having a big objection to cutting a tree down, and then we're gonna, let this happen without doing it. And not that we have, jurisdiction or authority over it, but it just seems like such a more significant negative impact than the tree that I don't want to have cut down, because it managed to survive 60 years in the ledge. So would that be all right with you guys if I asked Charlotte in a few weeks to add it back to the end of an agenda? Maybe we could, if you guys have a chance to look at it, we could do that.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good with it.
I
Okay.
can put it on for, unless I get a ton of COCs, I can put it on for 4-3, because we only got one new project, but I will say that new project might take an hour to discuss. But with that being said, there weren't that many items on the agenda overall, so I can tentatively put it on for 4-3. If 4-3 builds up, I can move it to the next meeting.
Okay. Thanks, Charlotte. And thanks, guys, for entertaining the discussion on this, because I have so much faith in you guys, and I don't know much about it, and I knew Tom would know a ton about it. I was like, Tom's going to explain this to me, and so I knew it, and it turned out exactly like that. And unfortunately, your last recommendation not to have my hair on fire, it hasn't gone out, but I'm gonna hope it does, because I'm freaked out about this. I gotta say, it's just, the idea is just gross. It's just gross. So anyway, okay, great. Let's move past this then.
Don't read into
John, so-
commercial agriculture, Valerio. It'll don't read
I'm sorry,
into
can you
any
repeat that?
don't read into any commercial agricultural practices of what's going on. So don't do that. You don't want to be, yeah. Okay. Ready for COCs?
Yeah. Should I just let you run with them, or do you want, I don't need to announce them via the,
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll start. I'll go in order. And I believe we have some people in the audience for each of them. Give me one moment. So the first one is NOI 2314 754 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. I believe it now has an address of 750. If not, somebody please correct me. Hi Ed, how you doing?
Oh, hi. So Kathy is on as well, but I
Oh,
think
great.
I
Okay,
think her
I didn't
Zoom is
recognize
stuck.
that.
I
Okay.
think it's stuck on Chevalier.
Yep, thank you. I wasn't sure if that was her or not. Hi, Kathy. Okay, so we have Kathy Dwyer, the applicant, and Ed, I'm sorry, can you please state your name and affiliation?
Yeah. Ed Watley, Kathy's husband and engineer.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so I can start, Ed. I think this one was overall pretty straightforward. Just to remind the commission, this was a septic replacement project. I'm going to pull up the as-built that was submitted to us, and it kind of shows pretty much almost exactly what was built per plan. And the Board of Health has already issued their certificate of compliance for the septic system, so Board of Health had no concerns with the as-built conditions. The approved plan actually had the leaching field being just a tad closer at 24.08 feet. So it actually is about a foot further away than approved. So that's a slight benefit. And then the grease trap was just put a little bit into the 100-foot buffer. Just want to show the commission this is all paved, but it was supposed to be just outside the 100-foot, but it was put like about a foot or two in. But other than that, I didn't see any other deviations. Ed had clarified that the elevation fields are 0.4 feet lower than the approved plan. And there was an added 0.4 feet of groundwater separation. So there's still a 4-foot a separation of groundwater that is mandatory. So we're good there. In walking the site with Kathy earlier this week, this is actually the first time both of us had seen it. Unfortunately, some of the wrong pictures. Unfortunately, some of the newly paved pavement that was just put in, some of it unfortunately did get beat up by the snowplows. So this is just about the 100-foot buffer line. And some of the broken asphalt kind of, unfortunately, is just kind of broken up in pieces along this mulch bed area. So I did talk to Kathy about, at some point when the landscaping crews or people are back here, if they can pick all this up and rake this out of the mulch beds, that would be awesome. I did not see any in the wetland, although there were, a couple crumbles obviously close to it, but it looks like this is pretty much where the snowplow went. And then you can kind of see in this picture here that unfortunately the guardrail may have gotten knocked. So I'm sure that'll be put back. But yeah, just wanted to note to the commission that this is really the only finding that I found, at least just in terms of the site conditions, but everything else appears to be built per plan, and Board of Health has issued a COC. And if the commission were to vote on a COC tonight, I would just recommend the standard template condition number 40 to not use any, chemicals, pesticides, et cetera, in the buffer zones. And Ed, if you have anything else to add, feel free. If not, I can turn it over to the commission.
Nope, I don't.
Okay.
Commissioner Bell,
No comment.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Nothing to say, thank you.
Commissioner McIntyre.
Comment, thank you.
So I don't want to belabor it, but it might, just be relevant for us. So what was built into the 100 that wasn't actually on the plans as being in the 100?
Just a small portion of the grease trap, but this was all paved buffer zone. But the original plan was to just keep that grease trap outside of the 100-foot buffer. It's about, maybe a couple feet in. Just a small portion. It was supposed to be just outside the 100, so it shifted a few feet.
And I don't think this is going to necessarily adversely affect anything, but to Ed and the property owner, do we know why that happened?
Yeah, it was really just a layout issue with the contractor. Things like this happen. It wasn't from a
engineering standpoint or a function standpoint, there wasn't any reason to have this one way 5 feet or another. It was just really a miss in the layout.
Was the limit of work right at the 100-foot buffer line? Is that where the limit of work was laid out, and it's just like, you know, over dig kind of thing, or?
No, this was like, so this area would have been used probably as a construction entrance because I think it was difficult to get around the other side. Yeah, you can't get around the other
Okay.
side unless they had permission to go on the other property. But the limit of work was the silt sock along the guardrail and fence line and in front of the, well, actually it was a little bit further up in the pavement. But yeah, the limit of work was like this L shape along the property line and then in the 50-foot buffer. So they
Nice.
would have been accessing it through this side
Anyway.
of the building to install things.
Okay. All right, we're just, you know, I'm this is an ongoing concern that I've been trying to confront is to how to make sure things stay out of the buffer when they're you know, so close to it. But it's not necessarily your problem, and I you know, I appreciate you coming forth and Charlotte having done you know, a thorough review, and there's no other comments from the commission. Unless there are some other comments from the commission, I mean, I would entertain a motion on the certificate of compliance.
I move that we issue a certificate of compliance for NOI 2314 on Chief Justice Cushing Highway.
And Tom, is that okay to put with condition 40 with our?
Yeah,
standard?
yeah, our standard conditions.
I'll second. Roll call vote, Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
McIntyre, aye.
and Valerio Romano, aye. That's 4-0. That certificate of compliance is issued, and hearing's closed. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for
Thanks
sitting
for
through our nuclear talk.
No, that was
Very
really good.
informative. Thank you.
You should catch your hair on fire. Stop this. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
I'm a teacher. My hair's on fire every day.
Yep.
All right, take
Thanks,
care.
guys. Have a good night.
Bye, you too.
Okay. All right, moving on to the next one. And we do have Eric and Jennifer Richter, the applicants for this next one for NOI 22-20 at 249 Jerusalem Road. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Yes, I'm happy to start, and obviously feel free to jump in if you guys have anything else to add. So I did walk the site with Jennifer, I think a couple weeks ago, a month ago, I can't remember at this point. Yeah, I'll just go through some of the findings. I'm going to pull up the as-built, which has been, for the most part, fully updated. The only thing that we were waiting on initially was the location of the gas line. There was a new gas line that was installed and the commission had administratively approved it. We just wanted to make sure it didn't go in the 50. I just verified on the site today that the gas line I can show you on the as-built is right here, pretty much in front of the mailbox. So it is either just outside or just within the 100-foot buffer. It was not installed in the 50, which was a condition of our approval for the installation of the gas line. You guys can see, if you drive down Jerusalem, you can see the road cut with the G sprayed in the road. So we're good to go there. And then going through the permit special conditions, this is the as-built, by the way, this is the final as-built. Going through the special conditions under the original permit, there was a revised plan that was supposed to be submitted within a week to reflect some of the language about the new proposed deck. ECR did submit that on May 20th, 2022. So that was done actually at the time of the issuance of the order of conditions. Sometimes I do that administratively, wait for that updated plan, and then just note that plan version update in the order itself. So that was done for the order. And then a silt fence was installed behind the 12-inch silt sock. I did inspect that on site. Just a quick note that the silt sock was originally supposed to go a couple feet behind the house to stay out of the floodplain and limit of the coastal bank. As you can see, there is a large tree here and there's another one here. It's just not clear on the as-built. Unfortunately, we had to shift the erosion control barrier a little bit further out at the toe of a slope here because there was no room for the excavators to get on this back end of the house without damaging the trees. And we did not want the trees to come out in the 50-foot buffer at the limit of the coastal bank. So I did allow for the erosion barrier to be pushed out just to give the excavator enough room to get around the house in a full rotation. Well, not full rotation because the tree's in the way here. And so that was just one note there. So both of those special conditions were complied with. And then in the COC request, the engineer noted that the front brick wall for deviations, the front brick wall was extended to the driveway. So this brick little wall here, increasing impervious by about 60 square feet. The retaining wall on the southeast side, I'm sorry, the brick pathway, excuse me, this. And then the retaining wall here was extended a little bit. That was an increase in 35 square feet. So overall, there was a slight increase in impervious in the 100 in disturbed areas in front of the home. The overhangs above the front facing, there were overhangs added to the front facing of the dwelling in the 100. So just these overhangs over here. And 2 additional pervious steps were added to the back of the house here. So those are just wooden deck steps. And then existing cobble along the driveway that was covered or buried were raised and reset in place. So no permanent, changes here, just mostly a temporary change. And then one of the deviations here to restore this area, instead of just putting the grass back, the homeowners installed 40 native juniper species along this limit here instead of restoring the grass that it used to be. So it's an area that's mulched, but it is supplemented now with 40 junipers. And there were no mitigation or proposed landscape plans as a part of this order. So these native plantings were extra in addition to just the housework. And then just a couple things that I had noted in my review. We did talk about this on site as well with Jennifer, that unfortunately there was a small Japanese maple here in the 100-foot buffer that was taken out by the contractor. And Jennifer and Eric would definitely like to replace that in a similar location. So I'll defer to the commission on that with timing. But yeah, it was never meant to be taken out, but it was taken out and they would like to put another Japanese maple back. And then some of the landscape beds around the home were just modified, and that was never on the approved plan, but at least in my opinion, with these types of, house renovation and redevelopment projects, it's kind of assumed that obviously these landscape beds are going to get, taken out and put back in. So that was just something to note on the plans. And then different plantings were put in. They did put in a lot of native species, and I did ask Jennifer to put together a list of what they planted, so I can read that in a moment. And then I already talked about the gas line utility, so that's just the only thing that's not shown on the as-built, but like I said, I did confirm it's right here. And then the plantings.
Charlotte, just because you mentioned it twice and I was going to ask about it. But,
yeah.
So the gas line is outside of the 50?
It's almost out, it's actually outside the 100. It's like right here, and it probably connects, I think it connects about here. So it might be partially in the 100, but it's pretty much like you can see the road cut right in front of the mailbox next to the driveway.
Okay.
So it wasn't installed in the 50, which was our condition of approval. Okay. And then the plantings that they had installed, which are around the landscape areas that you guys see on the as-built here. So in this corner here, over here, a little bit here, and then obviously the 40 junipers. So in addition to those 40 junipers, they did a couple larger upright juniper species, 4 lilac, 8 boxwood, 5 hydrangea, 4 rhododendrons, and then obviously the 40 junipers. And then they would like to plant another Japanese maple in a similar area in the lawn here in the 100. And if the commission were to issue a COC, I would recommend the 2 standard conditions of condition 40, no herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers, etc. in the buffer zones on the property. And then for condition 41, even though we didn't originally have a planting plan for the original order, I would just, now that they've put in those plantings, I would just want to see condition 41. Oh, sorry. What was that? Oh, sorry. I didn't know if someone had a question. I would recommend condition 41 so that the plantings have to survive 3 full growing seasons at the, or be replaced. So just put in that standard monitoring period to just make sure those plantings are maintained. And with
Thanks,
that,
Charlotte.
Eric and Jennifer, I don't know if you have anything else to add. If not, happy to turn it over to the commission.
I don't have anything to add, Charlotte. The spot where the Japanese maple you mentioned, there was a tree there by the previous owner when we first purchased it, and it was actually taken out by the first landscaper person we hired to come and mow the lawn and to also, plow. And so it was taken out. It was a Japanese maple of sorts. So he felt bad. He replaced it with the Japanese maple, put it there. And then now our contractors again took that out. So that seems to be a spot that everybody likes to take something out. But as you know, we'll do whatever the commission, what you guys tell us. We don't have to put in a Japanese maple, but it would be nice to just put in something that has a decorative look to it. And because that's what it was there before by Susan Playfair when she had something there.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Commissioner Bell,
I have no questions.
Commissioner Berrigan,
No questions also. Thank you.
Commissioner McIntyre.
No questions. Thanks.
So yeah, I'm all for you. You know, a tree came out within the 100. Let's put one back in. If you'd like to have it be a Japanese maple, those beautiful trees. I don't have an objection to that. So I don't know, you know, if we wanted to add that as a special condition in addition to 40 and 41, that a Japanese maple goes, you know, at a place satisfactory to the homeowner and to the conservation agent. That would satisfy me, and it sounds like you guys want to do that anyway. But
yeah, we can't like add conditions to the original order, but I can make the COC contingent upon whenever they put the tree in, and then
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We just need to wait till the ground is
Sure. So with that, I'd make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for NOI 22-40 at 249 Jerusalem Road with the template conditions 40 and 41 and a contingent upon placing a Japanese maple in a location satisfactory to the homeowner and to the agent.
It was NOI 22-20, but
I'm sorry, did I say so? 22 NOI 22-20 at 249 Jerusalem Road.
I second that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Valerio Romano, aye. So that passes 4-0. It's complete. Thanks a lot for putting in the 40 junipers. I'm sure they'll look great.
No, thank you.
Thank
And we
you.
learned a lot about nuclear waste too.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just it's an issue of mine, and that was the right
Oh,
place.
it's very helpful. It's very helpful.
Okay.
All right.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thank you guys.
Have a
good
nice
night.
night, guys.
Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you.
So how about a 130 Beach, Charlotte? Is that being continued, or are we doing that tonight?
Yes. If anyone in the audience is here for this one, feel free to raise your hand and I'll promote you. I see a couple people in the audience. I just don't think they're the applicant, but other than that, I'll just.
The only person I see left is
Oh, okay. They just
Will.
jumped up. Okay. And Will, I don't know if Will's still here. Okay. So yeah, sounds like we're good. So yeah, this one is a 2014 NOI. This one's actually after the fact. So what happened from reading the NOI application is there was a landscaped area. I'll pull up the, where is it? The approved plan. Sorry, it's a picture form. So this area here on the right side of the driveway, they had, a tree had died and they had replaced the tree and re-landscaped this bed area before filing an NOI. A letter was sent to them. They did file an after the fact NOI. They also added this additional work. I can zoom in a tad, to put in a fenced hedge with a gate across an existing walkway, put in some ornamental beds, and then they were also going to do an ornamental landscape bed over existing area of lawn and not encroach on the existing right-of-way. So that was the NOI, an order was issued. This work had already been done, obviously, by the time the NOI was filed. This newly proposed work in terms of the planting beds and the fence, it was actually, none of it was ever done. I went to the site, didn't see anything like that. It looks like it's still grass over here. Didn't see a fence or a hedge or anything here. The landscaped areas are, I mean, this area looks like it was recently mulched, but other than that, I didn't see anything else. This area here, the new tree that they had replaced, unfortunately, had since died a very long time ago. It was a cherry tree, and it died. And so right now in this landscape bed on the site, I didn't want to walk in it and get my, make a ton of footprints in the muddy area, but it looked like a bunch of either roses and or shrub bushes. So that tree that they had planted 10 plus years ago is unfortunately no longer there. It died. And then other than that, the only thing I will note that is that this 28-inch tree is not there. It was looking from near map. It looked like it was removed over 5 years ago and at some point in 2020. I'm sorry, it was about 5 years ago at some point in 2020. So obviously I wasn't here. I don't know what happened, but it wasn't a part of the plan. I'm not sure. I mean, it's 5 years. I don't know if the commission has thoughts about that. But other than that, the work was pretty much not, the work was never done. So a COC, if it were to be issued, it would just specify in the form that the proposed work was never done. So the COC it's not like an approval. It's just like a confirmation of closing the permit because the applicant doesn't want to do the work and the order's expired. And I would obviously, even though no work was done, I would still put in the standard conditions. The numbering is just a little bit different in this case because it's an older permit. It was condition 35, no herbicides, etc. And then condition number 36 that the plantings had to survive. But again, I don't know if that's applicable here because none of the new planting work was ever done.
So I'm sorry, this is probably maybe the first time we've confronted this since I've been on, and I just don't, without having another minute to take a look at the, the regs and the rules. A COC is appropriate for an expired permit that the work wasn't done, and that seems odd to me.
Yeah, so like when orders expired, like that's, I mean, as long as the work's done and the work's not being done past the order expiring, it doesn't matter when you file for a COC, although you should file for one, obviously, once the work is done. That's a standard condition in the order conditions under the state template and our local template. So the expiration date isn't as much of a concern unless they were doing work outside of the expiration period. But yeah, when you get an order of conditions and it's recorded with the registry, it still has to be closed out with a COC. So there's a couple of reasons to select in the form of when you can, what reason are you closing the permit out for? One is that the work was satisfactorily completed. One is that the work was never completed. And then the third reason I think is when you have, if the permit's no longer valid because there's a new order of conditions on the site.
You'll be closing it out in the form with the selection that the work was never done.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And like the after the fact work, like, the permit was filed after the fact. So it's like, it's almost, irrelevant. But
Okay.
yeah.
I don't have anything else. There's no one from the app. There's no one from the developer on.
No.
Commissioner Bell, do you have any other thoughts on this?
No, not really.
Commissioner Berrigan,
No, I don't.
Commissioner McIntyre. Okay, so hold on.
Yeah, like with the tree, I mean, I hate to use another lawyer's own words against us, but there was the statute of limitations of, if it was removed like last year, I think, but yeah.
So I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for NOI 14-26 at 130 Beechwood Street, with the conditions. Which numbers were they from the old days?
Oh, sorry, it was 130 Beach Street, not Beechwood Street.
Oh, 130 Beach Street.
Yep.
I said Beach
And then
Street,
it was
sorry,
a
130 Beach Street.
condition 35 with the no herbicides, and I don't think we need 36, which would have been the plantings thing, right? I think we just need
Yeah,
36.
condition of no herbicides to be used, and that the form used to record the certificate of compliance indicates that the work was never done.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone second?
Tom Bell, second.
Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
And Valerio Romano, I've passes 4-0, so that's complete.
Awesome.
So that's it for, sorry, Charlotte.
Oh yeah, sorry, I said awesome.
That's it for any sort of public stuff. Next, we have some agent updates and and 48-hour updates.
Yeah, I'll be quick. We've been good with timing so far. Final inspections, I have some administrative permits. 75 Old Pasture was a raise and rebuild. There's just a couple more things they need to do. It's mostly connecting the gutters and the downspouts to the system. It's just like literally putting the downspout down. So I mean that just needs to be done. I would like to see the ground a little bit more stable. It's if you guys are up Old Pasture, it's a site that's kind of up on a small hill. The construction entrance just wasn't fully stabilized, so I just want to see that done before I issue the COC. So there was also like I don't know if it was existing. I'd have to check my photos, but there was a drainage pipe that was additionally installed. Like the way that the drainage system was designed administratively is there's 2 trenches on either side of the home. The roof slants so that everything goes into either of those 2 systems. So I don't know why they added what appears to be a pipe from the front of the house and it's sticking out into the road. So I'm going to talk to the engineer and possibly the homeowner about that. And I don't know if that's an issue for the town. I don't know where this pipe officially comes from. So before I obviously issue any COC, just want to let you guys know that I'm kind of looking into that. And then there's another administrative permit on Doan Street. I did go to the site last week. It looks like everything is stable for the most part. This is after the fact, by the way. The as-built was actually done in August 24. I think, I don't know if it took a while for the homeowner to get it back or whatever, but anyway, it was given to me a couple months ago. In that time frame, it looks like a gravel driveway was installed in front of the garage. None of the work is in the 100. But I think I'm just going to clarify with the engineer about drainage and design and making sure everything's still okay. But from the site conditions, the trenches around the garage were installed per plan. This was a detached garage. No work encroached in the 100-foot buffer. So I just want to make sure before I issue a COC, the work obviously did not surpass 5,000 square feet. This was just, a garage. It needed an administrative permit. But yeah, the gravel driveway, they just put, crushed stone down. I think it's something used for storage of a vehicle, that's barely ever going to get driven. So yeah, I'll just make sure that's okay. And then wetland regulations, I know I sent you guys a large track document that I'm very aware of. Thank you, Tom, is unfortunately very difficult to open and it'll lag and probably close out on you guys. So what I'm going to do, this will take me a little bit more time. I'm going to make kind of like what you see on a warrant article. I'm going to make like a clean version of the document, but I will show in bold the language I added, the language that I crossed out. I don't know what I'm going to do with my comments. I don't know, Tom, if you have a suggestion for that, but I did want you guys to read those. I'm sorry there are so many, but obviously we're taking the time to revise these. So, maybe I'll see what happens to the document if I put the comments in or out. And so I will put that in your OneDrive. And then, I know we kind of wanted to do this in 2 weeks, but I would personally prefer you guys to all not rush through this and take the time to look through. Like if I wrote stuff that seems inconsistent, crazy, whatever, like please set up a meeting with me. We can go through the edits just so you guys all have a very thorough look at it before I send it to council. I'll hold my opinion off about that in terms of town council. I don't know how much time they're going to give me. That's all I'm going to say. So just want to make sure you guys thoroughly look at everything. And then eventually when we bring it to a public meeting, I will have to advertise for it. I will be making a summary of changes so that the audience and the public are all aware if anybody does call in. And then moving forward, the key thing I will note in the purpose of updating the regulations is that one of the reasons is not to increase our jurisdiction. And if we are increasing jurisdiction in any way through that document or through the revisions, it needs to be done in the bylaw. So I will talk to council about the specific procedures for that, but we will most certainly be making edits to the bylaw after we revise these regs. And then I had 2 48-hour issues, but other than that,
Charlotte, can I
anyone have any questions?
comment?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I found that it might be easier to actually read and edit if you do it on the desktop.
On the desktop, like
on your own desktop, rather than trying to do it in a browser.
Oh, in OneDrive. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The OneDrive, the latency is so bad that it's really hard to navigate.
Yeah.
that was the biggest issue is you hit page down and nothing happened.
Yeah, so
And
maybe
you
don't
try-
look at it in OneDrive.
and you try to use the scroll bar on the right, it's very jerky. So I just recommend that everybody, if there's an option to edit it on your own
Okay.
desktop. It's still linked back to the OneDrive, but that seems to be the most efficient way.
Okay. Would you guys just want to do that then instead of me creating an additional document, or do you guys?
Let's try that initially.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I mean, I maybe I missed it for a second, but I mean, I would love to see that sort of classic legislative amendment document where you have new stuff in bold, stuff that's been deleted. It's
Knock yourself
strike
out.
through.
It's there. You can see it. But if you want to edit it,
No, the track document, yeah, you can see it. It's everywhere.
it's
That-
out.
that's
Yeah, go look at it.
yeah. I was
I'll
waiting
just-
only because of your comment, Tom. I
Yeah.
was going to read through it, and I'm like, oh, Charlotte's coming with a cleaner version that I can read more easily.
I guess I misread Tom's email. Like, yeah, now I get it, Tom. You wanted us to download it instead of editing it in OneDrive because OneDrive
Yeah,
sucks.
that's the main barrier, but also, you know, it's with all of, what I would say, Charlotte, would be to, if there's some way to remove all the, essentially, I think what I tried was to accept all edits and read through it that way. It
And then
would be
undo
nice.
it.
You can hide them. You can go up to.
You can go back to the original. Yeah, I think there's
Well, you
even
can
a.
go. Yeah, you can go to under review. You can go all markup. You can go no markup or simple markup, and it will just hide them for you.
Oh,
No
okay.
markup
It's
shows
off
the
Microsoft
changes.
Word.
Yeah, it just doesn't hide, like no markup shows like all the new language. It just doesn't tell you what's new and what's old. Tracked shows you everything I've taken out, moved, replaced.
But if you just want to see the new stuff, you can just go to no markup, or you can do simple markup if you want to keep
Simple.
comments and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
And then we
so
don't have to
Charlotte, don't
actually,
do anything-
you
don't
don't
do
have to
anything
accept
until
or
we-
reject or anything. You could just choose it and it will pop them and it'll make them disappear, you know?
Yeah, don't do anything until we've had a whack at it and see if we can
Okay.
work.
Yeah.
The one thing with us all
you
working on the
obviously-
same document out of OneDrive, it will
Hey,
save,
hey,
because if we all have edits,
Valeria,
then somebody
can I finish?
has to put the edits together, you know?
Valerio,
Yeah.
can I finish what I was saying?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Of course.
Kind of broke my train of thought there. I just say that let's all have a whack at it, see how it goes. And Charlotte, you put so much work into it, a huge amount of work. It's obvious when you look at all the markup. It would be a waste of your time to try to clean it up so that for our convenience, if we can make it work on our desktop, let's have a go at it and let's revisit this at next meeting and see how everybody's going.
Yeah,
Good.
thank you. Okay, I have a lot of, I will say, like, this is the way that I did it at Dana-Farber and previously at my other jobs. Like, we always did tracked and clean versions and then eventually created a summary of changes. So like tracked was definitely the easiest way to see exactly what I made, but definitely I tried to clean everything up so that you don't see a lot of minor formatting changes. And obviously you can see I made a whole new template and it's not a scanned PDF anymore. And then in terms of the edits, when you guys make edits into, like when you download it from OneDrive, use it on your desktop and you keep tracked changes on. If you guys have never used this before, keep track changes on. And when you make an edit, it actually shows up in a different color. So I'll be able to tell, like when you guys send your comments and thoughts back to me, it's okay if you guys send it in 6 different documents, that's fine. I can see your changes in a different color. And it'll show up on your screen that way too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, for mostly what I'm looking for is definitely like, is whatever I wrote, do you agree with it? Does it make sense? And 2, is it consistent throughout the entire document? Because that's something I really, really, really looked over, but I'm human, obviously, I'm going to make mistakes. So yeah, anything that is inconsistent, please correct it. If you agree with it or disagree with it, just comment on it, let me know. And then, like I said, I'd really love to set up one-on-one meetings with you guys before I send it to council, because like, again, I don't want to sound rude, but I don't know how much time town council is going to give me with this, even though I've warned them about it for 2 years. So. Yeah. Not trying to say anything bad about town council. I'm just saying they're lawyers, they're busy, they represent a lot of towns. I don't know how much they're actually going to look at it. And I had the same concerns when I worked with cancer doctors. So this is nothing new. when I edited their biomedical protocols when I wasn't technically qualified. I'm like, can you please make sure the infusion schedule is right, please? I shouldn't be writing this.
Okay, so let's all try to have a whack at this over the next 2 weeks and see if we can make some progress. I think it's a really important thing to do because our regulations are contradictory in many cases and repetitive, and it's a great service to us who have to deal with it, and also for the public who has to live by it. So
yeah. I also, without like, I didn't want to obviously hold up the revisions, but as you guys can see in OneDrive, there is a list of future edits that I have been keeping a running list of. A lot of them are from you guys. A lot of them are from projects and issues that I was brought into when I was first hired, like lighting impacts, obviously, GPS coordinates, things like that. If you guys are really passionate about any of those edits and you want those to make it into the current like 2025 revision round, please, if you feel the need to, like, you know, if you want to do some research and add some language and add it, you know, please do that. I encourage you to. Otherwise, you know, we can keep it as a running list and we can, you know, do research on it throughout, you know, whatever. And when we find more information on it, we can add it to the regs, update it. So I want this to obviously be forever, of course, a malleable living document that the commission now will have the ability to review and edit it and not just look at a scanned PDF. So yeah, if you guys like any of those changes on that future edits list and you want those to make it into this round of revisions, please, you know, I'm all for it. Or against, whatever you guys want. So,
okay.
Yeah. Okay. I had 2 brief 48-hour updates, but does anyone else want to go first? No? Okay. Just want to, I'm sorry I have not been, I haven't updated you guys on this. I apologize. But as you guys know, Angela is retiring. Her last day is most likely March 31st. It might be the Friday before and the 28th. You guys saw that we are hosting a retirement party for her. It'll just be at the Legion at 4:30, which is next Thursday after work. You do not need to bring anything unless you want to. We'll have like sandwiches and snacks and a lot of desserts. I will probably get a card to sign if you guys would like to sign it. I have one in my office right now. It's mostly staff, but you guys are welcome to sign either or. And yeah, just whatever you guys, you know, just let me know. I think a lot of you have already RSVP'd, but if you end up changing your mind, no worries. If you want to come, just pop in and wish her congrats. You know, great. And then with the closing of Angela's long career at Town Hall, I think she's at 11 years, we have hired a new admin, and she starts the day after. And her name is Melinda Wall. She is a South Shore resident, I believe, from Scituate. She has experience with GIS. She's getting a degree in architecture and GIS. She has a biology background. She actually used to work at a dental office for over 14 years. And to me, I'm all about soft skills when I interview people. I'm like, oh, this means you know how to deal with crazy people and multitask and drop everything, you know. So seriously, I'm not even joking. So like her skills and her contributions and her personality all seemed like a great fit for Cohasset and for our department. She seems to be a very enthusiastic individual who's eager to learn and soak things up like a sponge. So I'm looking forward to working with her. She starts on April 1st. If you guys wish to meet her, text me and we'll figure it out. You guys are obviously welcome to pop in. I may or may not be around on the 2nd, but other than that, you know, come in and meet her, and I'll have her set in on the April 3rd meeting, just to soak it in until, you know, and I'll start training her obviously on agendas and minutes afterwards, but we'll probably put something at the beginning of the meeting to introduce her, and yeah, looking forward to working with her.
That's great. Thanks, Charlotte. And if she needs anything from me or from us, you know, let us know what we can do to help her transition and
yeah,
make her comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys, you know, maybe we could put some time either at the end of one meeting or the first 5 or 10 minutes of one meeting. I don't know. I don't want to have anybody wait on that, but yeah, so we'll figure it out. But and then the last 48-hour update I had is obviously just, you know, based on things tonight. I know I spend a lot of time reading through these conditions. I'm sorry. It seems like my list just keeps getting longer and longer. So I guess I'm open to suggestions on how you guys would like to deal with this to minimize, you know, wasting time during the hearings and, you know, fighting over language and details. So like a lot of towns do things different ways. The agent does do a report in a lot of towns for projects. That's a pro and a con. Initially, when I was hired, the commission did not want that because they obviously wanted to form their own opinions about projects, and I respect that. But you know, with conditions, I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm only able to put them in the OneDrive pretty much the day of. So like, if you guys have the time, please review the conditions if you can, even if it's just 5 minutes before the meeting or during the hearing, if you guys can multitask, just let me know, because I feel like there's maybe a better way that I can do that to not take up as much time and go through each condition and have it be argumentative or contentious or anything like that. I mean, a lot of my conditions are based on trying to be consistent and based on experience and based on what you guys are saying during the hearings. I'm literally typing them up, you know, sometimes as you guys are talking. I'm like, okay, everything I typed is garbage. I'm going to retype these because you guys have different opinions. Like, that's fine. I just, you know,
It's
so yeah.
Cheryl, it's either that or we go back to when you didn't do that, and then
Yeah.
we take the time to
Yeah.
verbalize them and type them out.
Yeah.
So I think you trying to capture them as we go,
Yeah.
and kind of giving them a review at the end is working fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to be efficient, but sometimes I feel like I'm taking up a lot of time now just by reading through them all. I think if I revise the
I mean, we
template,
gotta read them. We have to read them anyway.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
you're reading them into the record too.
yeah, I kind of have to.
And so, you know, I think it is fairly efficient.
Okay.
I
I
agree.
think if they're added to our template, then maybe I won't have to read a lot of them. Like a lot of those doc ones, they're going to go in the template. So after it's on my list, you know, we've been trying to revise that template for a while, and I know we took a break and we never came back to it. So a lot of those will probably just go straight in the template. I'll redo it at some point and I'll send it to you guys, and then I won't have to read all those. And then I'm only preparing 2 conditions per project because it's all in our template.
I think it's great the way it's working, and it also gives the developer an opportunity to listen to
Right.
the conditions and then maybe help us edit them so that they work, because they obviously know their project better than any of us. So I think it works great. I mean, one thing we might do to make it efficient is we all agree on the conditions at first and then give them the opportunity to chime in, so we're not going back and forth on each one. That might save
Yeah.
a few minutes here and there. But I think the way you're doing it is working really well, and having all the other, meetings I do in other jurisdictions. When it works like this, it's always my favorite as representing the applicant. So I think it's working well for the commission too. So
Okay.
I don't think I would change anything.
Okay.
Maybe not letting them, yammer on about each condition as you're saying them, but get through them all and then take their input.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Charlotte,
Yeah, like I said, a lot of those are going to go in our template, so I won't
Yeah.
hopefully have to read a book every time we have a project,
Charlotte, what's happening at 205 Atlantic?
Yeah.
I've been meaning to check in on that one. I reached out to the developer a little over a month ago and haven't heard back, so I will follow up on that one.
I mean, the gate's been locked and I haven't seen any activity there for a while.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. They were working earlier in January and February, and I don't know
Yeah.
what happened, why they just stopped.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that 10 Ocean Ledge, they did a substantial price cut and changed their realtors. So maybe there's some economic issues.
Yeesh.
I see the developer for 205 all the time walking my dog.
Yeah.
We don't really talk about his project, but he said it's still got the one thing he said. I was like, when are you finishing up there? And he seemed to say it's going to be quite a while. So I don't know what exactly that means, but
Yeah.
he walks his dog Chloe at Sandy a lot.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Peachy. Yeah.
Yeah, I run across when I'm down there fishing, when the weather's better, Ryan and I talk. So
He's a really nice guy.
he is.
Yeah, he's very pleasant and mellow guy.
Yeah. So I'm putting together a little reading list for you guys of things that I think are pertinent to decommissioning the plant.
Hmm.
Most of it's pretty
Please.
simple, not too involved scientifically, but it outlines sort of what a decommissioning looks like or what it should look like, and what are
Do
the
you want to
issues.
make a OneDrive folder for you?
No, I don't want to post these. I mean, I just got some URLs and you can just click on them. And start at the top and where they're simple and they get a little bit more into the weeds as you go down the list. So you
I
can,
will definitely
Yeah.
read them.
you can
know.
stop anytime.
Same.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks, Tom.
you've renewed my interest in it again. I mean, I was following it. Actually, my neighbor was the last superintendent of the plant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's moved on, but he's moved out of Cohasset as well. But he does area heating. He has a company that does he heats basically Cambridge and Boston, the big buildings. It's his company does. So he's
HVAC stuff.
Huh?
HVAC.
Yeah, yeah. You know what area heating is? It's they have a central heating and cooling plant, and then they service
Oh, wow.
buildings with it through pipelines. He was the one that was talking about putting in a tidally generated heat pump in the Charles River, which was a very interesting concept. So
No, I mean, I'm so like obsessed with this the whole thing now that I would once I get that, I'm gonna eagerly look at it. Honestly,
yeah, yeah. Well, I just say you'd really you shouldn't worry about walking your dog or breathing radioactive air or drinking radioactive water.
We're breathing microplastics, so.
Yeah, right. And
I don't know how I'm not going to.
And I just remind you that everything on this planet evolved in the presence of radiation, significant amounts of radiation, actually. And so we do generate new sources of it ourselves, but you live in a radioactive environment, and life on Earth has always lived in a radioactive environment. So
I mean, there's different types and different levels, and they, but yes.
Well, there's only actually a few types, and and there's a huge range of levels, and I mean, I don't know whether you remember the crisis about the disappearing ozone hole. By the way, it's still there. There's still a hole in the ozone over Antarctica, and that's letting in.
Getting bigger again.
Yeah,
Is it? I thought it was shrinking and going to be gone. It's getting bigger.
Someone has been sneaking CFCs.
Yeah, it grows and shrinks and grows and shrinks, but yeah, there's a lot of people using CFCs that are illegal in developing countries, but they aren't illegal in let's say less developed countries. So yeah, it's still an issue, and of course that lets in additional ultraviolet light, which is all around us at any time anyway. But the more we see, the more danger there is, of course, being outside. So.
Well, I had a dentist appointment on Monday, and she says, "Well, you're due for an X-ray," and I'm like, "I don't need an X-ray. Like, what am I getting surgery right now or something?" So I was like, "No, I'm like, clean my teeth, thank you."
Yeah.
So,
they're selling X-rays, of course.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I've cut back to once a year.
I don't know what I need an X-ray for. I'm there for a teeth.
Don't you have to do it once every other year?
I don't know what I would do.
That's
it
my
all
insurance
for.
coverage.
Oh yeah, the full mouth ones every other year.
Yeah.
But yeah, the number of appointments my dentist would like to write for me is
They want you to have an X-ray every time.
Seems excessive.
All right.
Well,
Yeah, we'll read.
yeah, I will
we'll read
definitely
up
look
on your stuff. I think that's fascinating, Tom. Thank you for all the helpful background info and knowledge that you have.
Well, I could have been a little bit more coherent if I thought about it before.
I know I sprung it on you guys. That's why I didn't really expect anything significant to come out of it either. I just wanted to talk to you guys about it, and
yeah,
there is a handbook specifically written for decommissioning that power plant.
Yeah, I've been looking for it. I've tried to Google it. Would you send
I'll
me?
send it. I'll send you a link to it when we hang after we adjourn.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Appreciate it. All right.
Speaking of, anyone want to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
B.
Aye. All right. The March 20th, 2025 hearing of the Conservation Commission is now closed. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.